Chapter 730. Chan Yu struck with his fist and smashed it into the shark's bloody mouth like a thunderbolt, smashing its huge head into pieces. Splash! The shark's blood splattered everywhere as its mountain-like corpse fell into the water. Waves of water spread out in all directions. Roar! Countless beasts roared and hissed as they no longer dared to attack the 6 people in the sky. Whoosh whoosh! After a while, 6 figures landed on the highest point of a mountain that was occupied by countless beasts. Damn humans, you're courting death. A giant crab that was shining with golden light streaked across the sky. The golden runes around its body soared into the sky, causing space to ripple. The sound waves caused the space to rumble, causing the souls of those who heard it to tremble. This is the thunderous soul-subduing crab. Its defense is terrifying and it can affect one's mind and soul power. Yu Wanli said, "It's a pity that it's an aquatic beast. It's only half a step into the Beast King realm. If it's stronger, I can keep it as a mount." As his voice fell, Yu Wanli waved his hand and a claw print pierced through the air, causing the space to ripple. It was as fast as lightning and had a powerful aura. The claw print distorted a large area of space and directly twisted the huge, thunderous soul-subduing crab, causing it to be unable to move. Destroy! Yu Wanli shook the air and slightly exerted force with his 5 fingers. Crack crack! The thunderous soul-subduing crab that was enveloped by the claw print's space started to crack in fear. The thunderous soul-subduing crab could not resist Yu Wanli at all. It was torn apart and turned into a bloody mist. Roar! Seeing this, the ferocious beasts that were entrenched in the surroundings immediately roared and trembled. They fled in panic, not daring to stay any longer. Where did this human come from? How dare he kill my beasts? In the distant sky, a towering man in a red robe was furious. His eyes were filled with coldness. That person's strength is not bad. The people around him are all martial kings. Don't attack first, in case the mysterious Dragon King takes advantage of us. The muscular man with a simple green rune on his shoulder said to the red-robed muscular man. His eyes glowed with rune light. The Golden Condor King looked ahead and frowned. It's Chan Yu and the others. The other 2 seem to be newcomers. The person who attacked just now should be very strong. The Solitary Sword King looked at a tall and faintly discernible figure in the distance. The figure carried a sword-like object on his back. His gaze wavered slightly as he felt a sense of familiarity. Ahead should be the Solitary Sword King, Golden Condor King, Flame Carp King, and Stone Turtle King. Shan Yuxiu came to Du Xiaofu's side and looked at a mountain in the distance. Du Xiaofu's gaze had already pierced through the black veil covering his face and landed in the distance. Those faint figures were very familiar. Third young master, the true dragon ruins are just up ahead. A true dragon's shadow appeared up ahead, Yu Qiji said to Du Xiaofu. Following Yu Qiji's gaze, Du Xiaofu looked at an empty body of water in front of him. The body of water in front of him was surrounded by endless waves. Faintly, an extremely unique aura spread out. That aura had a special fragrance that made the surrounding demonic beasts not dare to approach. This fragrance seems very special. Du Xiaofu murmured. That special fragrance was able to calm one's mind and soul just by smelling it. Whoosh! Suddenly, the vast body of water rippled. Then, the waves intensified, and the special fragrance became stronger. Whoosh! Surges of heaven and earth energy spread out from the void and gathered in the vast body of water in front of them. Roar! The surrounding demonic beasts roared. That fragrant aura seemed to have a peerless pressure that made all the demonic beasts tremble in fear. Their eyes were filled with fear. The ruins should be opening for real. Above, the Golden Condor King, Solitary Sword King, and the others were filled with anticipation. Whoosh! In the center of the vast body of water, many mysterious runes suddenly burst out. A terrifying whirlpool appeared in the body of water and absorbed the energy of heaven and earth. The huge whirlpool in the water flickered with mysterious runes as if it was a bottomless pit. Countless amounts of energy of heaven and earth gathered and rushed into the whirlpool. It couldn't be filled at all. It only made the entire body of water tremble, and there were raging waves in the distance. Roar. Suddenly, there was a dragon's roar. The dazzling, mysterious runes gathered and turned into a terrifying, hazy dragon that coiled in the sky. The hazy shadow coiled in the sky, and its appearance couldn't be seen clearly. However, the shadow was shrouded in radiance as if it was alive. Its aura was extremely terrifying, and it looked disdainfully. The terrifying shadow of the dragon was too terrifying. Its deep eyes were like a cosmic whirlpool that could swallow a person's soul. That aura was the aura of a supreme being, and it made countless living beings tremble. At this moment, the Solitary Sword King, Golden Condor King, Stone Turtle King, Flame Carp King, Chanyu, Yuchiji, and the others were all stunned. That shadow of the dragon was extremely terrifying, and its aura was terrifying. That's the aura of real dragons. What a terrifying aura. At this moment, even Yu Wanli's gaze trembled. That was the aura of real dragons, and it wasn't something that a flood dragon or mixed blood dragon could compare to. Du Xiaofu looked at the terrifying dragon in front of him. The golden rock technique in his body was activated for no reason, and that aura made the blood in his heart boil for no reason. Roar. All around the body of water, thousands of beasts roared and hissed in fear. From the shadow of the dragon, the pressure that came from the bloodline of the demonic beasts had a natural suppressive effect on them. Whoosh! The terrifying shadow of the dragon disappeared in midair. At this moment, that special aura and fragrance filled this part of the world. That fragrance made one feel relaxed and happy. It could strengthen one's soul and make one's body feel comfortable. It should be the aura of the dragon's saliva. The relic of the true dragon has opened. Above, the Golden Condor King was overjoyed, and his eyes shone brightly. Whoosh! Suddenly, in the turbulent sea, two huge creatures appeared. One was emitting a green-red light, and the other was shining with a white brilliance, releasing a terrifying icy aura. Both of the huge creatures were hundreds of feet long. Their huge bodies brought with them waves that covered the sky and earth as they dived into the terrifying whirlpool. Oh no! It's the mysterious Dragon King and the Ice Python King. They are indeed secretly making a move. The mysterious Dragon King and the Ice Python King have entered the relic. Chase after them. Above, the Stone Turtle King, the Golden Condor King, and the Solitary Sword King's faces changed. The four of them were like lightning as they swept across the sky. The aura of the four of them exploded, and the waves that they passed by were like countless bombs exploding. Whoosh whoosh, in the distance, several figures swept across the sky. Their auras were also in the Martial King realm. Although the auras of those figures were not high in the Martial King realm, they were definitely in the Martial King realm. It seemed like there were even spiritual talisman masters among them. All of them quickly rushed towards the relic. Let's go too. Du Xiaofu looked at the huge whirlpool in front of him and said in a low voice. Under the black veil, his eyes shone with a golden light as he swept out. Whoosh whoosh. Shan Yuxiu and the others nodded and followed. In a few flashes, the six of them had already appeared in front of the whirlpool. At this moment, the Golden Condor King, the Stone Turtle King, and the few Martial King realm and 6-star spiritual talisman masters who were waiting at the side had already entered the whirlpool. Du Xiaofu and the others did not hesitate as they swept into the whirlpool. In the passage of the water, runes flickered all around. It was like a vacuum passage that went all the way to the depths of the water. It was pitch black all around, and only the runes that flickered from time to time emitted light. Below the whirlpool was a vast underwater world. The underwater world was beyond imagination. The reefs were continuous like the mountains outside the water. It was incomparably huge. There were all kinds of underwater creatures, like the dense forests in the mountains outside, covering the reefs and the underwater world. Colorful corals flickered and huge fishes swam around. Everything was like a dream, and it was extremely dazzling. Du Xiaofu and the others were cautious as they guarded against danger. However, they had been overthinking. There was no danger in the underwater world, and they passed through without any obstructions. It was just that the mouth-watering fragrance was getting stronger and stronger. It was accompanied by energy fluctuations that rippled in the underwater world. There in front, Yuanli took the lead and slowed down. He noticed that the people who had just entered in front of him also slowed down. Walala! In the water, the light became more and more dazzling, illuminating the underwater world. It was dazzling and dazzling, like the sun rising from the east. What's that? Shan Yuxiu was shocked. He suddenly looked in front of him. On top of a mountain-like reef in the water, there was a dazzling light and a divine radiance. Looking at it carefully, it was the size of a child. It was oval-shaped like an egg, but compared to an egg, it was much bigger. The dazzling divine radiance and the dazzling light in the water all came from that object. The rich and mouth-watering fragrance also came from that object. The last day of this month is also the last day of this year. I just checked the writing software. For the whole year, I wrote exactly 4 million words. In the first half of the year, I didn't write for 2.5 months before I started writing new books. Here, Little You would like to thank all my brothers and sisters for their support. I won't say much. I wish everyone good health and happiness in the new year. Little You pays his respects. Chapter 731. Dragon's Saliva. That's dragon's saliva. What a huge ball of dragon's saliva. Yuanli looked at the oval-shaped ball of light and was shocked. He had never seen the real dragon's saliva before. However, it wasn't hard for Yuanli to tell that the oval-shaped ball of light was the legendary dragon's saliva. Dragon's saliva was left behind by a real dragon. It was a treasure among treasures. It was rumored that dragon's saliva could transform ordinary demonic beasts. It could transform a mixed dragon into a real dragon. Dragon's saliva could also transform a martial artist from the inside out. It could also strengthen a spiritual talisman master's soul and transform himself. Dragon's saliva was a treasure to all living things. Dragon's saliva. Du Xiaofu's gaze was also fixed on the ball of dragon's saliva. It was filled with divine light and fragrance, causing the blood in his body to boil. He was greatly affected for no reason. Swoosh, swoosh. At that moment, the Golden Condor King, the Solitary Sword King, the Stone Turtle King, the Flame Carp King, the 5 Martial King realm cultivators who came in later, and the other 2 cultivators with the aura of 6-star talisman masters, surrounded the huge reef. Everyone's gaze and aura were fixed on the dragon's saliva. In front of the reef, 2 huge creatures were entrenched. They were at least 1,000 feet long. A green and red dragon entrenched itself in the water. Its entire body was covered in green and red light, making it look like a huge dragon. Its aura was terrifying, causing people to tremble. The other huge white python had a ferocious body like a dragon. Its eyes were scarlet, and the aura around it was cold as if it could freeze the water at any time. The green and red dragon and the huge white python were naturally familiar to everyone who surrounded the reef and had their eyes on the dragon's saliva. Even to Du Xiaofu, the green and red dragon and the huge white python were familiar. They were the mysterious Dragon King's original body, the mysterious Cloud Scarlet Dragon, and the Ice Python King's original body in the Middle Region Long River. It seems to be the complete Beast King realm. It actually broke through. Du Xiaofu was shocked. At this moment, the aura on the mysterious Dragon King's body was shockingly at the complete level of the Beast King realm. Back then, when the mysterious Dragon King was chasing after him, the mysterious Dragon King was only at the peak of the Beast King realm. It seemed that during this period of time, the mysterious Dragon King's cultivation had actually made a breakthrough. The mysterious Cloud Scarlet Dragon Carp King realm, Dragon's editor, Dragons was Dragon's saliva. But it seemed that they were worried that the Dragon's saliva wouldn't be that easy. Thus, at this moment, everyone was waiting in formation. No one took the initiative to attack. They were all acting according to the circumstances, waiting for an opportunity. Mysterious Dragon King, Mysterious Dragon King. The Flame Carp King, the Stone Turtle King, the Golden Condor King, and the Solitary Sword King communicated secretly. To them, the person they feared the most right now was the Mysterious Serpent King. They did not care about the others too much. The Mysterious Serpent King and the Ice Python King were besieged by the Flame Carp King, the Stone Turtle King, the Golden Condor King, and the Absolute Sword King. Thesis was Scarlet Dragon Scarlet of this that TT attack. Suddenly, the Ice Python King and the mysterious Dragon King seemed to have reached some kind of tacit agreement. The Ice Python King took the lead and attacked first. The aura of its huge body fluctuated with an icy cold aura. In an instant, the icy aura filled the sky and froze the water below, blocking the people around it. At the same time, mysterious Dragon King Nenen's huge body leaped out like lightning, pouncing towards the dragon's saliva on the reef. Mysterious Dragon King wants to launch a sneak attack. Golden Condor King, Flame Carp King, and the others who had been targeting Mysterious Dragon King Nenen would naturally not let Mysterious Dragon King do as he wished. Almost at the same time, the four of them moved. Whoosh! Runes filled the Flame Carp King's body in an instant. He transformed into a demon flaming carp that was over 100 feet long. The scorching scarlet flames on his body boiled in the water. The runes on his talisman exploded. Scorching heat filled the air. Wherever the demon flaming carp king's body passed, the surrounding frozen water cracked and shattered, destroying everything in its path. Roar! A huge green tortoise appeared. The runes on the tortoise's shell were intricate and shimmering. Its aura surged as it pounced towards mysterious Dragon King Nenen at lightning speed. Golden light burst out. At the same time, a pair of golden rune wings condensed on Golden Condor King's back. The wings blocked the water flow in the water. His speed was also as fast as lightning as he followed the giant tortoise towards mysterious Dragon King. Swoosh, swoosh. Seeing that the mysterious Flood Dragon King, the Ice Python King, the Golden Condor King, the Flame Carp King, and the Stone Turtle King had started fighting, the 5 Martial King Realm Cultivators and the 2 6-star Talisman Masters gritted their teeth. Instantly, the 7 figures rushed toward the reef in front of them as if they had agreed beforehand. The 7 of them had been waiting for an opportunity to seize the opportunity to fight for the dragon's saliva. Otherwise, they wouldn't have much hope of obtaining the dragon's saliva in front of Mysterious Dragon King, Flame Carp King, and Golden Condor King. With your strength, I'm afraid it's not enough to fight for the dragon's saliva. The Solitary Sword King attacked. A talisman weapon longsword appeared in his hand. He poured his celestial chi into it and the runes surged. He swung the sword and a vast sword chi swept out like a wave, stirring up countless waves. Let's work together. The 5 Martial Kings and the 2 6-star Spiritual Talisman Masters seemed to have been prepared. With a loud shout, the 7 of them attacked at the same time. Each of them activated their spiritual weapons and talisman weapons as well as their energy attacks. Vast and mighty, they resisted the Solitary Sword King's sword chi. Rumble! Within the water, rumbling sounds were endless. The energy waves swept through the surrounding reefs, causing them to shatter and collapse. The energy was monstrous. Although the auras of the 5 Martial Kings were ordinary in the Martial King realm, with only 2 at the mystical Martial King realm, 3 at the initial Martial King realm, 1 at the initial Martial King realm, and 1 at the initial Martial King realm, and 1 at the mystical Martial Talisman Master, the 7 attacks that surged out together were enough to shock anyone. The Solitary Sword King shouted as he swung his sword. Boundless sword chi rolled out and resisted all the attacks of the 7 people. The 5 Martial Kings and the 2 6-star Spiritual Talisman Masters were pushed back. Their eyes were filled with astonishment. The Solitary Sword King's strength seemed to be stronger than they had imagined. Ice Python King, you're still too weak. The demonic flamed carp, which was more than 100 feet long, was surrounded by rolling red flames. Its aura was many times stronger than the Ice Python King's true form. The demonic flamed Carp King destroyed the cold ice aura, as if he was born to suppress the Ice Python King. He opened his mouth, and the red flames turned into a beam of light, shooting towards the Ice Python King's true form like a thunderbolt. The terrifying impact and blazing aura forced the Ice Python King's huge body to move back. A large amount of blood mist spurted out of his mouth. You're too weak. Get lost. The demonic flamed carp shouted. In a short moment, just as the Ice Python King's body was pushed back, the demonic flamed Carp King's body moved forward instead of retreating. He leaped from the water to the Ice Python King's true form like lightning. The demonic flamed Carp King's body suddenly spread out. It was dazzling and terrifying. The scorching heat was so hot that it evaporated the water around it, causing white smoke to rise. The demonic flamed Carp King's true form, the demonic flamed Carp King, used his body to collide with the Ice Python King's true form. His speed was as fast as lightning, and his power was like thunder. Boom! The rolling red flames were terrifying, as if they could destroy everything. They easily destroyed the Ice Python King's hard ice scales defense, causing the Ice Python King to roar and spit out blood again. Walala! The Ice Python King's back was hit by the demonic flamed Carp King. Blood spurted out from the broken scales, and his body rolled violently. After a tail swing, the Ice Python King's true form fell into the water. Blood flowed into the water, and it could no longer fight. Roar! At this moment, the mysterious Dragon King, the Stone Turtle King, and the Golden Condor King were already fighting. The Stone Turtle King transformed into a huge turtle. Its entire body was ancient green, and it emitted a misty, mysterious pattern. Its aura was terrifying, and its huge body under the water was like 100,000 mountains crashing down. The mysterious Dragon King roared. Its huge body collided with the huge turtle, and it was actually able to push it back. It was shocking that it could suppress the huge turtle. Boom! The Golden Condor King appeared and slammed his palm toward the mysterious Dragon King. The mysterious Dragon King's eyes were filled with coldness. His entire body was covered in green and red light, and he spat out a beam of energy from his mouth. It directly blocked the Golden Condor King's palm and destroyed it. So powerful! The Golden Condor King's face turned solemn. The mysterious Dragon King was too powerful. If he was alone, he would not be able to do anything to the mysterious Dragon King. Whoosh! Not far away, sword radiance filled the sky. The solitary Sword King used his own strength to activate the boundless sword aura. He blocked 5 martial kings and 2 6-star spiritual talisman masters, and he did not seem to be at a disadvantage. Rumble. Although the 5 martial king realm cultivators and 2 6-star spirit talisman masters were not in danger for the time being, they were still unable to get close to the towering mountain-like reef. Swoosh! The Flame Carp King had severely injured the Ice Python King. He did not have time to care about the Ice Python King's life or death. His body turned into a scarlet flame, and he charged toward the huge reef, wanting to take the dragon's saliva on the reef. The dragon's saliva is not for you. The mysterious Dragon King's true form, the Xianyun Scarlet Dragon, roared like thunder. His entire body was covered in green and red light, and the mysterious patterns of the green and red talisman burst forth. Roar! Along with the roar, the aura of the mysterious Dragon King skyrocketed. In an instant, he broke through the siege of the Golden Condor King and the Stone Turtle King. Wherever the huge dragon passed, the water trembled. He pounced toward the Flame Carp King. The Flame Carp King's eyes trembled. The scarlet flame runes on his body seemed to have come alive. The scarlet flame jumped, and a beam of scarlet flame shot out toward the mysterious Dragon King. Break! The mysterious Dragon King shouted, and a green and red beam of light shot out from his mouth. The light was dazzling, and it was accompanied by a terrifying power. It destroyed the scarlet flame of the Flame Carp King. Then, the huge dragon tail swept toward the Flame Carp King. It was as fast as lightning. The Flame Carp King's eyes narrowed. He seemed to be slower than the mysterious Dragon King, and he could only use his body to collide with it. Chapter 732. Bang! The dragon tail clashed with the devil-flamed Carp King's body. Energy surged and the devil-flamed Carp King's body was pushed back. He looked serious and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Go all out against the mysterious Dragon King. The Golden Condor King shouted. He flew over with the Stone Turtle King and attacked the mysterious Dragon King. The Golden Condor King and the Stone Turtle King couldn't trap the mysterious Dragon King. After the Flame Carp King stabilized his body, he had no choice but to join in. 3 waves of energy attacked and the runes shone brightly. Only then did they trap the mysterious Dragon King. What a powerful scarlet cloud dragon! Impressive! Yuanli stood with his hands behind his back in the water far away. Without Du Xiaofu's words, he had no intention of joining in. Yuanli had been watching the battle. He could tell that the Scarlet Cloud Dragon was the strongest. The Scarlet Cloud Dragon at the complete Beast King realm was definitely not to be trifled with. Du Xiaofu watched the battle with a calm expression on his face. He had no intention of interfering. On the other hand, Chen Yuxiu, San Yi, Yan Huai, and Yu Qiji's gazes were mostly on the dragon's saliva on the reef. However, Chen Yuxiu and the other three knew their own strength. Moreover, the four of them were injured. Since the third young master had no intention of joining in, they naturally stood at the back obediently. Rumble! The battle between the exceptional Sword King and the 5 Martial King realm cultivators and the 2 6-star spiritual talisman masters was difficult to determine. They were in a stalemate. This can't go on. You guys trapped the exceptional Sword King. I'll go get the dragon saliva. Out of the 5 Martial Kings attacking the solitary Sword King, one of the Martial Kings at the mystery level immediately took advantage of a gap in the attacks to break free. Go all out. The other 6 heard him and released their auras without holding back. They attacked with all their might. Their attacks gathered and the runes shone brightly. Muffled sounds kept coming from the bottom of the water. In the end, they surrounded the exceptional Sword King and trapped him, not allowing him to escape. The exceptional Sword King's eyes narrowed. The sword radiance in his hand was terrifying. It was like a storm that could destroy the water. Whoosh! Whoosh! Sword radiance. The exceptional Sword King realm mystery level master was. However, at this moment, the Martial King mystery cultivator who was originally attacking one of the solitary Sword Kings had already taken the chance to leap to less than 100 meters above the reef. He wanted to take the dragon saliva. Or dragon's dragon king realm. Dragon's dragon. Suddenly, from the surging waves above the reef, a purple-robed figure wrapped in a faint golden profound energy light leaped out. No one noticed how this person appeared. He wore a cloak on his head and a black veil covering his face, so no one could see his face clearly. Was En of the mysterious martial mystery, of great of the martial out, of the Martial King of. Looking at the mysterious figure that suddenly appeared, this Martial King realm mystery level cultivator also paid attention. He was one of the few people who were originally quietly observing the situation behind him. He could feel that this mysterious person who suddenly appeared was not someone to be trifled with. However, the dragon saliva was so precious that it was hard to resist its temptation. The Martial Emperor realm arcane level cultivator glanced at the mysterious figure and said, "If you want to interfere, let's see if you have the strength to do so." As soon as the words were spoken, the Martial Emperor realm mystical level cultivator clenched his teeth. Without any hesitation, he waved his hand and formed a fist seal. It was as if the fist seal was going to shatter the entire area of water, and was hurled toward Du Xiaofu with a muffled sound. "I've already warned you. You brought this upon yourself." Du Xiaofu sighed slightly. He didn't dodge. He shook his arm and directly punched out with golden talisman patterns. In an instant, his fist collided with the former's. Bang! The two fists collided with each other in the blink of an eye. Such a collision was like a muffled clap of thunder in the water. Rumble suddenly, the rumbling sound of the explosion spread out. A large area of water was overturned, and the surrounding reefs were shaken to the point of cracking. Countless talisman patterns exploded in the waves and spread out with the waves. Pucci, in a short moment, everyone saw a terrifying scene. The Martial King realm mystery level cultivator's fist began to emit kacha sounds of bones breaking. Then, in a short instant, the former's pupils shrank, and fear surged into his eyes. Starting from his fists, his body shone with a golden light from the inside out. In the end, his body turned into a bloody mist and exploded in the water. With just one punch, a Martial King realm mystery level cultivator turned into a bloody mist without leaving a corpse behind. What kind of terrifying strength was needed to achieve this? That mysterious person was actually this powerful. At this moment, the entire arena seemed to have paused for a brief moment. The third young master is actually this terrifying. Song Yi trembled. Only now did he know that the third young master didn't use much strength when he attacked him last night. The Martial King Realm Mystery Level Cultivator in front of him was blown to pieces with just one punch. If the third young master had also attacked him with all his strength last night, he could imagine what would have happened to him. As Song Yi thought of this, he couldn't help but feel a chill down his spine. Just as the Martial King Realm Mystery Level Cultivator was blown to pieces, Du Xiaofu's figure flashed like lightning. In the next moment, he had already appeared on the mountain-like reef. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's figure was less than 20 feet away from the oval-shaped dragon saliva that was emitting divine radiance. At this moment, the mysterious Dragon King, Golden Condor King, Flame Carp King, Solitary Sword King, and the others were all entangled and couldn't get away. Du Xiaofu was actually so lucky that he got there first and didn't encounter any obstacles. Oh no, someone got there first. That person's strength is terrifying. He's trying to fish in troubled waters. At this moment, the mysterious Dragon King, Golden Condor King, Flame Carp King, Stone Turtle King, Solitary Sword King, and the others stopped almost at the same time. As if they had reached a tacit agreement, the few figures quickly swept towards Du Xiaofu, who was in front of the reef. They were fighting with all their strength, but they definitely wouldn't allow anyone to seize the opportunity to snatch the dragon saliva. Once someone took the opportunity to touch it, they would undoubtedly join forces and attack him. Back off, you guys are not fated with the dragon saliva. Yu Wanli's figure appeared in front of Du Xiaofu out of thin air. Like a ghost, a large amount of mysterious runes rushed out from his hand and turned into a dazzling light in the water. The light was so dazzling that it was like a light screen. The aura was so vigorous that it made people's energy boil violently. It blocked everyone's surroundings and prevented them from stepping onto the reef. The attacks of the mysterious Dragon King, Flame Carp King, Golden Condor King, Solitary Sword King, and Stone Turtle King all hit the rune light screen that Yu Wanli had set up at the same time. Rumble. Immediately, a muffled sound rang out in the space beneath the water. The 5 attacks did not have any effect on the light screen. Instead, a huge repulsive force erupted, forcefully pushing back the mysterious Serpent King and the others. This is a horrifying expert. The figures retreated one by one. The mysterious Dragon King, the Flame Carp King, Solitary Sword King, Stone Turtle King, and Golden Condor King's eyes were filled with fear at the same time. These people naturally knew in their hearts that the white-robed old man was a terrifying existence to be able to withstand their attacks so easily. Seeing this, the remaining 4 Martial King Realm Cultivators and 2 6-star Talisman Masters, who were still hoping for a fluke, had completely given up at this moment. The mysterious Dragon King and the others couldn't even withstand a single blow. They couldn't fight back at all. On the reef, Du Xiaofu hesitated for a moment. He was worried that it would be dangerous to collect the dragon saliva, but he didn't have much time to hesitate. He quickly kept the oval-shaped dragon saliva into his Qiankuan bag. Why is it so smooth? The process of collecting the dragon saliva was so simple that it was beyond Du Xiaofu's imagination. He didn't expect there to be no danger in collecting the dragon saliva. Dang dang. The mysterious Dragon King, Golden Condor King, Solitary Sword King, Flame Carp King, and Stone Turtle King stabilized themselves. Light wrapped around their bodies and blocked the water flow. A couple of gazes raised their heads and looked over. Their expressions changed drastically. They just so happened to see the mysterious purple-robed person directly store the precious dragon saliva into his Qiankuan bag. Not good. The mysterious Dragon King and the others were shocked. They had waited for almost a year for the treasure and it had fallen into the hands of someone else. Looks like we can only work together. There is a lot of dragon saliva. I will take half of it and the 4 of you will take the other half. The mysterious Dragon King's eyes were filled with a red glow and chilling intent. He locked his gaze on Du Xiaofu. You are alone. You will take 40% and the 4 of us will take 60%. The Flame Carp King said to the mysterious Dragon King. Originally, They planned to work together to get the dragon saliva and even take down the mysterious Dragon King to become the strongest expert in the central region. Just when they were about to succeed, the Flame Carp King didn't expect that the two mysterious men would barge in at this crucial moment and ruin their original plan. Now, they had no choice but to work together with the mysterious Dragon King. Last month, I knew that I had many things to do. So I didn't ask for flowers or anything else for almost an entire month. This month, little you has risen. I have asked for flowers every day. Today is the first day of the new year. I have asked for flowers. There will be more today. In the new year, I wish all my brothers and sisters a happy new year. I wish you all happiness and good health. Chapter 733. Alright, I'll take 40% and you guys take 60%. Let's get the dragon saliva first. The mysterious Dragon King nodded. The dragon saliva was already in the hands of the mysterious person. The most important thing now was to get the dragon saliva back. Alright, deal. The Golden Condor King, Solitary Sword King, Flame Carp King, and Stone Turtle King looked at each other and nodded in agreement. After all, the mysterious Dragon King was the strongest. They needed him to work together. Swoosh swoosh. At this moment, Shan Yuxiu and the other three immediately came to Yu Wanli's side. They looked at the mysterious Dragon King and the others cautiously. They knew that the mysterious Dragon King and the others would definitely be at a disadvantage this time. Du Xiaofu put away the dragon saliva and slowly descended, stopping beside his third senior brother, Yu Wanli. Looking at the mysterious Dragon King and the others with the dragon saliva in his hand, Du Xiaofu no longer had any scruples. He looked calm. Sir, who are you guys? It's not good to take someone's item. The Golden Condor King looked at Du Xiaofu and Yu Wanli. The rune wings on his back flapped fiercely. The treasure has no owner. The fated one will get it. You should know this. Du Xiaofu replied indifferently. He looked at the mysterious Dragon King, Golden Condor King, and the others through the black veil. He said softly, Mysterious Dragon King, Golden Condor King, Solitary Sword King, Flame Carp King, Stone Turtle King, surrender. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, the mysterious Dragon King, Golden Condor King, and Solitary Sword King were surprised. From his tone, it seemed that he was not only going to take the dragon saliva, but he was also not going to let them go. Human, what do you mean? The Flame Carp King looked at Du Xiaofu with blazing runes in his eyes. His body was burning with red flames that burned the water. Du Xiaofu raised his head and looked at the Flame Carp King. He said, My meaning is simple. I don't plan to let you guys go. If you know what's good for you, surrender. Maybe you can suffer less. Shameless human, you're courting death. When had the Scarlet Cloud Flood Dragon ever been looked down upon like this? It roared, and its huge body immediately rushed towards Du Xiaofu. Bastard, how dare you? Yu Wanli shouted. Although he knew that his junior brother wouldn't be worried about this Scarlet Cloud Scarlet Flood Dragon. However, he was ordered to escort his little junior brother this time. Naturally, he would not allow any danger to approach his little junior brother. As the sound of his voice faded, Yu Wanli's eyes instantly became frightening. He waved his hand and the mysterious runes on his palm erupted. In the blink of an eye, the 10,000 li palm was wrapped in symbols. They were sparkling and translucent, and their radiance was blazing like a sun. A terrifying aura erupted as the latter directly struck out with his palm at an unimaginable speed, fiercely striking the head of the profound WM King's true form, the Scarlet Cloud W. Bang! In an instant, a muffled sound rang out. Waves of water surged, shattering the reefs in all directions. Poochie Poochie, the profound WM King's huge Scarlet Cloud WM body retreated violently. It spat out large mouthfuls of WM blood, unable to resist at all. The complete Beast King realm Scarlet Cloud WM did not even have the strength to resist. That white-robed old man's frightening strength and the unpredictable speed that he had displayed earlier caused everyone's eyes to tremble involuntarily. This strength is too terrifying. Martial Royal Realm. He must be a Martial Royal Realm expert. At this moment, the Golden Condor King, the Solitary Sword King, the Flame Carp King, and the Stone Turtle King saw what had happened in an instant. Fear crept into their hearts, and their backs were drenched in cold sweat. Even their souls were trembling. The profound WRM King was injured by a single blow, and to the Golden Condor King, the Solitary Sword King, the Flame Carp King, and the Stone Turtle King, they naturally knew what this meant. It meant that they were even more vulnerable. The huge scarlet cloud WRM's body retreated into the water. The blood in its mouth dyed the water red. Its lantern-like eyes were filled with unwillingness and fear as it trembled in shock. Roar, however, in just a short moment, the profound WM King's eyes flickered. The huge scarlet cloud WM turned around and fled. He did not want the dragon's saliva anymore. Bastard, it's too late to escape now. Yuanli smiled. He waved his hand, and a long rope with dazzling runes flew out like lightning from his sleeves. As the runes appeared in the sky, a majestic pressure descended upon the water. High-grade Dao artifact. That's a high-grade Dao artifact. The pressure that emanated from the long rune rope made the Solitary Sword King, the Golden Condor King, and the others change their expressions. They could feel that the long rune rope was actually a high-grade Dao artifact. Those who could take out a high-grade Dao artifact were definitely people with great backgrounds. Swish, swish. The long rune rope was like a living creature. It was as agile as a spiritual snake, and its aura was like a real dragon. It wrapped around the profound WM King's body like a bolt of lightning, tightly binding the scarlet cloud WM King's body in the water. Roar. The profound WM King roared endlessly. Green and red light exploded from his body, and runes soared into the sky as his body churned endlessly. However, no matter how the profound WM King struggled, he was unable to move under the binding of the long rune rope. He was suppressed in the water. Gugu, the Absolute Sword King, the Golden Condor King, and the few martial kings and six-star talisman masters in the distance all gasped when they saw the mysterious Dragon King being captured alive with a flip of the palm. Sir, we don't want the dragon's saliva anymore. Let's part ways here. The Solitary Sword King looked at Yuanli and Du Xiaofu as he suppressed his shock. He knew that there was no hope for him to obtain the dragon's saliva. The strength of the other party was far beyond their reach, and there was no way they could resist. You want to leave? If the two of you can defeat me together, I'll let you go. If the two of you can't defeat me together, then you'll have to bear the consequences yourselves. Du Xiaofu looked at the Solitary Sword King and the Golden Condor King as he spoke. He then said to his third senior brother, Yuanli, third senior brother, leave these two to me. As for the rest, I'll have to trouble you. Don't let any of them go. If necessary, just kill them. There were still a few martial kings and 2 6-star spiritual talisman masters present. Du Xiaofu had no choice but to leave them behind. Du Xiaofu knew that if the news of him obtaining the dragon's saliva spread, it would attract the attention of countless experts. The trouble it would cause would be immeasurable. Therefore, he definitely couldn't let any of them go easily. Chan Yuxiu, make a decision. Don't let any of them go. Those who surrender can live. Those who want to escape, kill them. Du Xiaofu then said to Chan Yuxiu, Song Yi, Yan Huai, and Qi Ji. Yes, third young master. Chan Yuxiu nodded. Although the 4 of them were injured, it wasn't impossible for them to stop the remaining 4 martial kings and 2 spiritual talisman masters. Moreover, there were also super experts from the ancient heaven sect. Judging from that person's voice, he should be quite young. How can he be the young master of Chan Yuxiu and the others? What is his background? Hearing the respectful tone of Chan Yuxiu and the others, the Solitary Sword King, Golden Condor King, and the others were surprised. Especially the Solitary Sword King and the Golden Condor King. They both frowned and looked solemn. What should we do? That person doesn't seem to want to let anyone go. He must be afraid that the news of the dragon's saliva will leak, so he wants to silence them. The 4 martial kings and the 2 6-star spiritual talisman masters looked at each other. Hearing Du Xiaofu's words, the 6 of them trembled with fear. After seeing that even the mysterious Dragon King couldn't escape, the 6 of them didn't dare to run away. The Flame Carp King and the Stone Turtle King were entrenched in the water. They looked at each other with solemn expressions. The ferocious aura around them had already disappeared. Sir, you must be someone with a great background. We have no fate with the dragon's saliva, so we will leave this place now. We also swear that we won't leak the news of the dragon's saliva. Can you be merciful and let us go? The solitary sword king said to Du Xiaofu. He knew that the mysterious person didn't want to let anyone go because he was afraid of leaking the news of the dragon's saliva. Under the black veil, Du Xiaofu looked at the solitary sword king and said calmly, I've said it before. If you can defeat me, I'll let you go. If you can't defeat me, you can only bear the consequences. The Golden Condor King looked at Du Xiaofu. He knew that the mysterious young man with the veil was the leader of these people. He gritted his teeth and said, Sir, why do you have to be so stubborn? Leave us some leeway today, and we'll meet again in the future. Leave us some leeway today, and we'll meet again in the future. That makes sense. But that's why I'm here. Defeat me, or you can't leave this place. Du Xiaofu's voice was still calm. Hearing that the mysterious young man was determined not to let them go, the Golden Condor King and the Solitary Sword King looked at each other with radiance in their eyes. All right, then the two of us will have to learn from you. I hope you can keep your word. The Solitary Sword King nodded. The runes on the talisman longsword in his hand erupted. The talisman longsword seemed to be alive. The runes were dazzling like the sun, and the sword radiance surged above the water. Boom! At the same time, the vast aura of the Solitary Sword King's cultivation swept out, creating a huge whirlpool below the water. At that moment, the Solitary Sword King's cultivation at the peak of the Nirvana realm was fully released. He was going all out. He knew that he had no other choice. Do it. At that moment, the Golden Condor King was the first to make a move. He created a diversion, and his eyes shone with radiance. The rune wings on his back flapped, and he was as fast as lightning as he pounced towards Du Xiaofu. The third watch has arrived, and I beg for fresh flowers. Chapter 734. It had to be said that the Golden Condor King was very fast. He was famous for his speed. No one at the same cultivation level could compare to him. Hence, the Golden Condor King was the main attacker in the diversion with the Solitary Sword King. At that moment, the Solitary Sword King and the Golden Condor King knew that they were no match for the mysterious white-robed elder. He might be a super-existence at the martial royal realm. Hence, they could only hope that they could defeat the mysterious youth in front of them. When the time came, the other party would let them go according to the agreement. The youth was probably not too old. The two of them were both martial kings at the Nirvana realm. Now that they were working together, they were still quite confident. Chi! The water broke through the waves and the Golden Condor King's figure instantly appeared in front of Du Xiaofu. A vast aura had already crushed Du Xiaofu's body. At the same time, the Golden Condor King waved his hand and a rune energy wave condensed. Like a thunderbolt, it swept towards Du Xiaofu. Boom! It was a short distance, but the speed was as fast as lightning. The thunderbolt-like energy had already bombarded Du Xiaofu's body. Chi! Waves surged into the sky. It was as if a deep water bomb had exploded in the water, causing the surrounding sea to tremble. In the outside world, the raging waves surged into the sky. It was as if the mountains were moving and the seas were overturning. The energy pierced through Du Xiaofu's figure. As the waves swept over, Du Xiaofu's figure shattered in the waves. However, there were no traces of blood. Oh no, it's an afterimage. The Golden Condor King seemed to have sensed something. His face, which had been filled with joy, suddenly changed. The Golden Condor King did not expect the mysterious youth to have such terrifying speed. He could even leave an afterimage in the water. How terrifying was that speed? Your speed is not slow, but it's not enough. A calm voice entered the Golden Condor King's ears as if someone was whispering into his ear. Du Xiaofu, who had just disappeared, appeared in the air behind the Golden Condor King like a ghost. Du Xiaofu waved his hand, and golden talisman inscriptions swept out from his palm like lightning. They turned into a domineering phantom of golden wings that flapped onto the Golden Condor King's back. Chi-la-la! The Golden Condor King was unable to retreat or escape. His back bore the brunt of the golden talisman runes. A series of muffled sounds rang out as he spat out a mouthful of blood. Poochie. After that, the golden Condor King's body suffered a heavy blow. Unable to resist, his body flew out of the water like a bird with broken wings. Huge waves rolled in all directions, and the water body trembled as if it was about to overturn the entire water body. Be careful! The solitary Sword King's expression changed drastically, but it was already too late to help. Sword light erupted from the half-alive seal weapon sword in his hand. It surged in the water region with shocking pressure. Whoosh whoosh, the sword light seemed like it was going to cut apart the 8,000-mile Central State River. The Absolute Sword King's sword slashed towards Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu stared at the sword light. Golden light rippled in his eyes under the black veil. At the same time, a dazzling golden light erupted from his body like a sun. The sword light swept over, but Du Xiaofu did not retreat. Instead, he advanced. He stomped his foot, and the water beneath his feet exploded. At the same time, Du Xiaofu's right arm shook. His 5 fingers curled slightly, and talisman inscriptions flickered on his fingertips. It was as if he was about to tear apart the Middle Prefecture River. Visible energy ripples spread out from the claw mark. Rock Chaos Crushing Claw. At this moment, the aura that spread out from Du Xiaofu's body was like a peerless beast. The claw mark erupted with golden light. The dazzling talisman inscriptions wreaked havoc like golden lightning. It was as if a golden-winged rock was about to spread its wings and soar into the 9 heavens. Then, the claw mark collided with the sword light. Under such a claw mark, the martial kings around all felt their meridians and souls tremble. Their meridians and souls felt uncomfortable and fearful for no reason, as if they were facing a supreme king. Under the terrifying claw, the pressure descended, causing fear to abruptly flash across the eyes of the mysterious Serpent King, who was already bound and captured at this moment. Not far away, Yuanli, the Flame Carp King, and the Stone Turtle King had already started fighting. Suddenly, the Flame Carp King's and the Stone Turtle King's eyes trembled as they felt the overbearing aura. In a short instant, the Rock Chaos Crushing Claw clashed with the Solitary Sword King's sword light. As the two clashed, the water region around them boiled and exploded. The overbearing aura exploded, and many people were shocked. Crack crack. The Solitary Sword King's sword light only lasted for a short moment in the terrifying golden claw mark before shattering. At that moment, the overbearing and fierce aura from the mysterious young man did not seem to exist in humans. It could only exist in demonic beast sovereigns. Golden light exploded from the claw print like countless golden lightning snakes shooting out. It destroyed the Solitary Sword King's terrifying sword light with an unstoppable force. Like a hot knife through butter, everything was routed. The talisman inscriptions in the sky shattered. The terrifying energy storm spread out in an arc through the water region. The terrifying energy seemed like it was going to tear the water region apart and reveal a vacuum. Large patches of reefs were reduced to dust. The claw mark pierced through the air and grabbed the Solitary Sword King's talisman weapon longsword, forcefully taking it away. The Solitary Sword King spat out a mouthful of blood as the Solitary Sword King's talisman weapon was forcefully taken away. He staggered back and his face turned pale. His eyes seemed to have sensed something at that moment and were filled with astonishment. When Du Xiaofu had just reached the Martial King realm, he was already able to severely injure Cao Zhao, Bai Yichen, Chang Qinghai, and Fei Qingming, who were in the top 10 of the gold roll. At that moment, Du Xiaofu was still in the Mystery Martial King realm, while the Golden Condor King and the Solitary Sword King were only in the Nirvana Martial King realm. The result was obvious. In a short period of time, the Golden Condor King and the Solitary Sword King were unable to withstand a single blow from the mysterious young man. Huff huff, the surrounding Martial Kings, Chan Yuxiu, Song Yi, Yan Huai, and Yu Qiji all gasped. Their jaws dropped in shock. You are, the Solitary Sword King, who had stabilized his retreat, looked at Du Xiaofu in horror. He seemed to have discovered something as he stared at Du Xiaofu in shock. You guessed right. As soon as he finished speaking, Du Xiaofu took off his cloak and revealed his resolute face. The golden light in his eyes gradually faded, revealing his deep and clear eyes. "It's you!" The Solitary Sword King and the Golden Condor King, who had returned to the Solitary Sword King's side, looked at the face in front of them and trembled in shock. How could the Solitary Sword King and the Golden Condor King forget? Back then, they had chased after the young man in front of them all over the central province Long River, wanting to kill him and steal his treasures. At that moment, the terrifying young man had appeared before them once again. However, the young man's strength was no longer the same as before. Even if the two of them joined forces, they could not withstand a single blow. The Golden Condor King finally understood what the young man had said previously. "Leave some leeway in life so that we can meet again in the future." They didn't leave any leeway in the beginning. No wonder the young man in front of them didn't let them go no matter what. Looking at Du Xiaofu's expression, the Golden Condor King and the Solitary Sword King's faces turned even uglier. The two of them did not need to think to know that they were probably doomed today. The young man before them had come for revenge, so he definitely would not let them go. The mysterious Serpent King's colossal body had shrunk to the size of a python less than 3 meters long under the suppression of the formation rope. He looked at Du Xiaofu with shock in his eyes. The mysterious Serpent King had already guessed most of the golden-winged Great Pang's aura that radiated from Du Xiaofu's body. When he saw the familiar face, the mysterious Serpent King's eyes turned even paler. He knew that he would not be able to resolve the situation today. Rumble. Not far away, there were continuous explosions as blinding light exploded. Energy surged, threatening to overturn the 8,000-mile-long river in the middle province as pressure spread. When the energy gradually dissipated, the Flaming Carp King and the Stone Turtle King's bodies had shrunk to the size of a baby. They were crushed by Yuanli's spatial handprints. Yuanli's handprints changed and turned into rune seals, sealing the Flaming Carp King and the Stone Turtle King's bodies, as well as the demonic Flaming Carp King and the sea-suppressing Stone Turtle. "Junior brother, how should we deal with these two beasts?" Yuanli smiled happily as he walked over to Du Xiaofu's side. In the ancient Heaven sect, his cultivation might not be considered very strong, but on the central prefecture Long River, he was definitely a terrifying powerhouse. Two beast kings at the Nirvana realm were naturally not enough for Yuanli to deal with. "Third brother, thank you for your help. It won't be too late to deal with them later." Du Xiaofu smiled at Yuanli, then looked at the remaining 4 Martial King realm cultivators and the 2 6-star spiritual talisman masters who did not dare to move. He said, "The 6 of you have 2 choices. Follow me as my servant for 10 years. After 10 years, you will regain your freedom. Or I will kill all of you on the spot." As Du Xiaofu's voice fell, the 6 of them looked at each other. They were all Martial King realm cultivators and 6-star spiritual talisman masters. They were well-known figures in the outside world. Now that they had to be his servant for 10 years, they naturally could not accept it. Chapter 735. However, the 6 of them knew that their opponent was powerful. If they didn't obey, they would be killed on the spot. They had no way to fight back or escape. The 6 of them looked at each other with complicated gazes. After a while, the 6 of them looked at Du Xiaofu and knelt down on one knee. They gritted their teeth and said, "We are willing to be your servants for 10 years. Greetings, master. Just call me third young master in the future. Rise." Du Xiaofu smiled. Then, he looked at the Golden Condor King and the Solitary Sword King, who were dumbfounded and had complicated gazes. He said, "The 2 of you have made the same choice. Live or die, it's your choice." The Golden Condor King and Solitary Sword King looked at each other with dim eyes and pale faces. "Sir, can you keep your promise and promise that we will regain our freedom after 10 years? The Solitary Sword King raised his head and looked helpless. He had no other choice. 10 years as my servants. After 10 years, you will regain your freedom." Du Xiaofu nodded. 10 years was enough. After 10 years, he believed that he wouldn't need these guys anymore. "Greetings, third young master." The Solitary Sword King bowed respectfully. Between life and death, he chose to live. Being a servant for 10 years was not too long for a martial emperor realm cultivator. "Greetings, third young master." The Golden Condor King bowed. The solitary Sword King had already made his choice and he didn't want to die. Even if he had to be humiliated for 10 years, it was still better than being killed now. This is the goo poison pill. Give it to them. 8 black pills appeared in Du Xiaofu's palm and he passed them to Shan Yuxiu. The black pill emitted a faint black aura, accompanied by the flickering of strange black symbols. It was like a living thing, extremely strange, releasing a pungent and unpleasant smell. Shan Yuxiu was stunned and gave the 8 pills to the Golden Condor King, the Solitary Sword King, the 2 6-star Spiritual Talisman Masters, and the 4 Martial Kings. What is the goo poison pill? The Golden Condor King held the goo poison pill with a solemn expression. He could tell from the goo poison pill's aura that it wasn't anything good. The goo poison pill is rumored to have come from a man called Medicine King Yi Wuming. It is said that after taking the goo poison pill, a type of goo poison will spread throughout the body. However, it will not affect one's cultivation. However, the antidote must be taken once a year. Otherwise, the goo poison will act up and devour one's essence and blood. A 6-star talisman master looked at the goo poison pill in his palm and actually knew the origin of this goo poison pill. Hearing that, the Golden Condor King, Solitary Sword King, and the others were shocked. Even Shan Yuxiu and the others were shocked. Du Xiaofu looked at the 6-star talisman master and was surprised. He then smiled at the others and said, "I can only trust you after taking the goo poison pill. If you are honest, your lives will not be in danger. However, if you betray me, I don't need to tell you what will happen. You can decide for yourselves." The 8 of them were shocked. They knew that they had no other choice. They had already planned to be servants for 10 years. In short, they had fallen into their grandmother's hands. If they didn't take the goo poison pill, the consequences would be unimaginable. Gulp. The 8 of them didn't hesitate and swallowed the goo poison pill. Between life and death and being controlled by others, they chose to live. Shan Yuxiu, Song Yi, Yan Huai, and Yu Qiji were shocked. They saw that the Golden Condor King, Solitary Sword King, and the others were going to take the goo poison pill, but they didn't. It was enough to show that the 3rd young master trusted them more. Yu Wanli had been watching closely from the side. This time, there was a hint of shock in his eyes. Then, there was a smile in his eyes. At this point, it wasn't hard for Yu Wanli to understand why Bai Yichen, Chao Zhao, and the others couldn't beat his junior brother in the Gudian Manchu. If it wasn't for the fact that they were in the Manchu, his junior brother would have more or less restrained. If they were outside, Bai Yichen, Chao Zhao, and the others would have been in a worse state. Du Xiaofu smiled as he watched the 8 of them take the goo poison pill. The goo poison pill was refined a while ago. The recipe came from Yi Wuming. He didn't expect it to come in handy this time. "Junior brother, we shouldn't stay here for long. It's better to leave as soon as possible," Yu Wanli said to Du Xiaofu. He then looked at the bound mysterious Dragon King and said, "And this Scarlet Cloud Dragon, what do you plan to do with it?" "We shouldn't stay here for long." Du Xiaofu's eyes moved. The dragon's saliva had already fallen into his hands. The news of a treasure appearing in the central region's Long River had already spread. It would probably attract experts. Although he wasn't worried about ordinary cultivators, it was best not to be careless. "Third senior brother, let's leave this place first." After pondering for a while, Du Xiaofu nodded to Yu Wanli. He then looked at the bound mysterious Dragon King and said, "As for the mysterious Dragon King, 3rd senior brother, please let it go." "Let the Scarlet Cloud Dragon go?" Yu Wanli was immediately puzzled. Du Xiaofu smiled and said, "The mysterious Dragon King chased me for a long time. It's my turn now." Hearing this, Yu Wanli immediately understood. His hand seals changed, and the long rope of runes that restrained and suppressed the mysterious Wrm King instantly shot back like a bolt of lightning. Without the restriction, the mysterious Dragon King's body instantly roared. Runes instantly surged on its body, and green and red light shone brightly. It once again turned into a 100-feet-long dragon, setting off waves in the water. Du Xiaofu looked at the mysterious Dragon King and said, "Mysterious Dragon King, the same goes for you. Defeat me and you can leave. Otherwise, you'll become my mount." "Ao." the Scarlet Cloud Dragon King's body roared. Its huge body erupted with terrifying power. Green and red light burst out, and then its huge body turned into a long rainbow and fled. Everyone was stunned, but it wasn't strange. The mysterious Dragon King knew that it couldn't fight back, and it definitely didn't want to become someone's mount. Therefore, it wanted to escape. The mysterious Dragon King's body was like a tiger that had grown wings in this 8,000 miles long central region's long river. It was like a fish in water. Even though stronger than it couldn't do anything to it. Everyone, follow me to the dark forest. I'll chase after that beast. As Du Xiaofu shouted, a trace of a smile flashed in his clear eyes. Golden light surged, and his figure instantly turned into a golden rainbow and tailed after the mysterious Dragon King. Along with the appearance of the treasure, the chaotic battle between countless demon beasts and humans still continued on the 8,000 miles long central region's long river. However, from time to time, the raging waves and earth-shattering movements under the water made countless demon beasts and humans tremble. Boom! Above the water that was already surging violently, an enormous green and red light pillar suddenly shot into the sky. Then, another golden streak of light shot through the sky, and two muffled thunderclaps resounded over the water. Splash! Above the water, the two rainbows shot out, and two enormous water pillars that were over 30 meters in diameter shot into the sky. They poured down and smashed into the water. Waves of water surged and spread out, toppling the mountains and overturning the seas. Ao! A dragon's roar resounded, and a huge scarlet cloud flood dragon soared into the sky. Its huge body carried with it an astonishing power. Its body was surrounded by green and red runes, and its scales flashed with a heart-palpitating, dazzling light. The huge scarlet cloud flood dragon directly pierced through the sea of clouds above the water, and the water below surged, creating huge waves. Beast, you can't escape. The golden figure soared into the sky, and golden light erupted. The golden rune wings on its back flapped, and its aura was domineering. The golden figure was like a deity, and like a golden thunderbolt, it quickly appeared behind the scarlet cloud flood dragon. Ao! The scarlet cloud flood dragon roared, and its lantern-like eyes turned serious. Sensing that it could not shake off the golden figure behind it, its huge body once again plunged into the water. The scarlet cloud flood dragon's huge tail stirred up thousands of layers of huge waves, and it was like a deep water bomb exploding at the bottom of the water. Rumble! The terrifying energy collided with the water, and directly shook the water into a vacuum within a radius of several hundred meters. A terrifying force wreaked havoc in the surrounding space, preventing the golden figure from chasing after it. But the golden figure did not care. The golden wings on its back flapped, and it directly dived into the water. A low muffled sound came from the bottom of the water, and a terrifying force spread out from the bottom of the water, creating monstrous waves hundreds of meters high above the water. Crash! The huge waves continued to pour on the water, forming terrifying waves that spread out. Above the water, thousands of beasts howled and roared, trembling under the terrifying aura. Swoosh, swoosh! At the same time, in the distant sea, a dozen figures flew out. The figures flashed a few times and disappeared in the air, heading towards the scarlet cloud flood dragon and the golden figure. Crash! The water rippled and huge waves spread out, causing the huge gray ship to sway, but it was still relatively stable. On the deck of the huge ship, many figures were pale, and their expressions were still in shock. This time, they had gone out to sea to search for treasures, and had walked through the gate of death. If it were not for someone's help, they would not have been able to return. Return at full speed. The treasures are not something that we can compete for with our strength. On the deck, Zhou Tianyang softly said. His face was a little yellow from being exposed to the wind and sun all year round. Chapter 736. However, it added a sense of sturdiness. But at this moment, Zhou Tianyang's face was still pale. First head, who do you think is the person who helped us this time? Why did he save us? A burly man in a neat outfit asked Zhou Tianyang, looking rather puzzled. I don't know either. Maybe we were lucky. This time, we were protected by a noble, so there was an expert helping us. Zhou Tianyang said softly. He had a feeling of déjà vu towards the mysterious person who helped them. He also thought of a figure in his mind, but he felt that it was somewhat impossible. Rumble. Suddenly, the huge waves in the water intensified. In the distance, huge waves that could topple mountains and overturn seas surged over, causing the giant ship to sway. What's going on? Did those demonic beasts catch up? Some people were surprised, and their eyes were all solemn. A dragon's roar pierced through the waves, bringing a pillar of water to the sky and pouring down in torrents. The waves rolled over and over, and a series of thunderous sounds came from the bottom of the water. What's going on? On the giant ship, everyone was shocked. They were all guessing what had happened in the water, but no one dared to go down to investigate. Looking at the terrifying sounds in the water, the aura that spread out made everyone tremble. If he got caught in the crossfire, he might lose his life if something went wrong. There are experts fighting fiercely below. Everyone be careful, Zhou Tianyang said. He controlled the giant ship, wanting to avoid the most intense area of impact. Bang bang! The waves rolled over and over, and the terrifying energy stirred the water. There were domineering golden rays and green and red rays of light coming out from the water. The majestic energy rushed out of the water, and on the surface of the water, it was like a bomb exploding. Whoosh! Huge waves rolled over and over, and the highest wave was already close to a terrifying height of a few hundred feet. Roar! Suddenly, on the water in front, a huge flood dragon rushed out of the water, and a terrifying aura swept across the sky. The flood dragon's roar reverberated in the water all around, bringing with it a painful howl. Within the 8,000 miles long river of the central province, the waves were rolling like a tsunami. Taking a closer look, one could see that there was a golden figure pressing down on the back of the huge flood dragon. The golden wings on the golden figure's back flapped in a domineering manner. Punch after punch landed on the flood dragon's back. The flood dragon was in pain. Its huge body rolled over and over, sometimes leaping out of the water, sometimes diving into the water, but no matter how hard it tried, it could not get rid of the golden figure. Look, that's the profound cloud scarlet flood dragon, the profound flood dragon king. Heavens! That is indeed the terrifying existence of the mysterious WRM king. It seems like someone is trampling on the mysterious WRM king. I heard that the mysterious Dragon King recently broke through to the complete Beast King realm. Who is that person? He's actually so strong that he can trample on the mysterious Dragon King. Numerous gazes on the large gray ship looked into the distance. All of them were stunned as they watched all of this in shock. This scene caused everyone to feel deeply shocked. Someone was actually trampling on the Black WRM King. This scene was unbelievable. It seems like déjà vu. On the giant ship, Zhou Tianyang stared at the distant sky and muttered softly. The sight of the commotion in the distant sky gradually became blurry. The mysterious WRM King's huge body had already disappeared into the distant sky. Only its shocking roars still reverberated in the sky above this region of water. After a long while, this vast region of water finally calmed down a little. Everyone on the giant ship watched the scene that had just happened. They had yet to recover from their shock, as if they were dreaming. As for the mysterious WRM King and the terrifying golden figure, they had already disappeared into the horizon. Was I dreaming just now? Some people were shocked as they could not believe what they had just seen. The mysterious WRM King roared as it fled through the 8,000 miles of the central province's long river. Along the way, the mysterious WRM King had already been beaten up countless times by Du Xiaofu. However, it was only beaten up once each time. On the central province's long river that connected the sky and the water, the mysterious WRM King had a hard time. It roared and howled along the way, but it could not shake off Du Xiaofu. It could not win in a fight, and it could not even escape underwater. It was forced to run forward. In addition, its body was covered in blood and its scales were cracked. It could be said that the mysterious WRM King was in a terrible state. The mighty scarlet cloud WRM King had been trampled into a huge worm. Du Xiaofu did this on purpose. He did not intend to kill the Scarlet Cloud WRM King with his full strength. Along the way, Du Xiaofu only rode closely on its huge back, occasionally giving it a few heavy blows. "Human, what do you want?" the mysterious WRM King roared. As a WM, its ranking on the Heavenly Beast ranking was not low. At this moment, its arrogance had no choice but to wither. "Didn't you have a lot of fun chasing me back then? Now it's my turn." Du Xiaofu stood on the mysterious WRM King's back with a smile on his face. "You got the dragon saliva. What else do you want? Don't go too far." The mysterious WRM King roared angrily. "Ouch, how dare you threaten me?" Du Xiaofu heard and immediately punched the mysterious WRM King's body a few more times. "Roar!" The mysterious WRM King cried out in pain. WRM blood spilled everywhere. It had never been in such a sorry state in its life. At this moment, the mysterious WRM King would never have thought that not long ago, it was still arrogantly chasing this guy. Now, it was being chased like a dog. It was impossible for it to be a match. Finally, the silhouette of a boundless mountain range appeared in front of the boundless water surface that stretched for tens of thousands of miles. A huge harbor appeared. Many buildings surrounded by mountains and water appeared. There were faint figures flashing around. Roar! A terrifying WM came from the water, bringing with it raging waves. It instantly crossed the harbor and disappeared into the vast mountains. What was that just now? That looked like a W. Could it be the mysterious WRM King? In the harbor, many figures trembled. In the mountains, the mysterious WRM King roared, shaking the mountains. Countless monsters in the depths of the mountains trembled. Peng descends to the 9 heavens, suppress. In the sky, Du Xiaofu roared. His hand seals changed, and golden light bloomed around him. The golden rune wings on his back shook violently. Carrying the domineering will of the golden-winged Peng, Du Xiaofu activated the Peng descends to the 9 heavens. It was as if the golden-winged Peng had descended. Rumble! Golden rune light burst forth like fireworks, causing the sky around the mountains to be dazzled. At this moment, the heavily injured mysterious cloud Scarlet WRM King could no longer fight back. Its huge body fell from the sky onto the mountains. The ground shook and many mountains cracked. Cracks spread on the ground. Golden-winged Peng, the aura of a real golden-winged Peng. Are you a human or a beast? The mysterious WRM King could not struggle, but its eyes were filled with shock. It could not understand. This strange youth was clearly a human, but the aura from his bloodline made the mysterious WRM King clearly feel that this kid had the bloodline of a real golden-winged Peng. Du Xiaofu roared, "This is not a problem for you to worry about. I will ask you one last time, will you become my mount? I have the body of a mysterious cloud Scarlet WM, the bloodline of a dragon. How can I become your mount?" The mysterious WRM King resisted. It had the bloodline of a dragon, and was unwilling to become a human's mount. "Since that is the case, then I will kill you. I will drink your blood, eat your flesh, peel your skin and pull out your tendons to refine a practitioner weapon." Du Xiaofu roared and began to suppress with all his strength. The sound waves were like thunder. Shocking golden waves surged and spread out in all directions. Poochie, poochie, poochie. Blood spurted out from the mysterious cloud Scarlet WM King's body. Its eyes were filled with fear. It could feel Du Xiaofu's true killing intent at this moment. The mysterious WM King did not doubt Du Xiaofu's words at all. It felt its hairs stand on end. The mysterious WM King had personally experienced it before. That human had drunk its blood and eaten its flesh. He would definitely not die. What a joke! Don't kill me. I will submit. I am willing to submit. I am willing to become your mount. Under the true aura of death, the mysterious WM King submitted. It did not want to die yet. It would have been better if you had agreed earlier. You just had to ask for it. The killing intent in Du Xiaofu's eyes gradually withdrew. The golden runes dissipated. He turned his head and looked at the sky above the river. A dozen figures were flying over. In the vast space, numerous mountains rose and fell in a circle, and they were suffused with an ancient aura. Roar! Many ferocious birds and beasts shuttled through the space. Their roars were like thunder, and they emitted a terrifying aura. Any one of these ferocious birds and beasts would be respected by tens of thousands of people outside. They would make billions of creatures tremble. At this moment, these ferocious birds and beasts had been tamed by someone. In the early morning, the morning sun rose like countless dragons spitting out golden waterfalls. It made the majestic clouds shine. In the green mountains, the mountains were steep. The trees were lush, and the rivers were surging. There were many ancient buildings with exquisite carvings. This vast space was like a small world. No one knew how long it had existed. It was as if it had existed since the beginning of time. This is all counted as yesterday's update. The night before, I stayed up all night. That's why there are 3 updates in the afternoon. I slept until 11 at night. Then, I wrote until 6:30 in the morning. 3 updates in a row. Little you did not slack off on New Year's Day. Other than sleeping, he wrote. The update time is late again. I apologize to everyone. But I still shamelessly ask for flowers to thank my brothers and sisters. Chapter 737. A lone peak stood tall and green. A beautiful figure stood there. She was about 17 or 18 years old. Her green dress fluttered in the wind. Her delicate face revealed an otherworldly beauty. Her ethereal eyes twinkled like stars as she stared at a certain spot in the sky. She seemed to have been in a daze for a long time. Miss Xiaojing. A figure appeared silently behind the girl. It was an old woman in her 70s. The old woman was wearing a plain dress. She looked old, but her steps were vigorous. Under her faint eyebrows, her face was full of wrinkles. It was as if the vicissitudes of life were written on her face. Granny Ming, why are you here? The girl turned her head. Her long black hair flowed down her back. She pursed her lips and smiled. She looked otherworldly. I'm here to see Miss Xiaojing. It seems that your cultivation has improved a lot. The old woman smiled benevolently. Her wrinkled face seemed to have experienced the vicissitudes of life, but her eyes were deep and spirited. She said to the girl, Miss Xiaojing is indeed one of the top talents in the clan. To have such achievements at such a young age is truly rare in the world. The girl smiled coquettishly and said, Granny Ming, I said that you can call me Xiaojing. I'm not used to you calling me Mississippi. The old woman looked at the girl in front of her and smiled kindly. I'm a servant of this family. Miss Xiaojing is the miss of the clan. You can't be disrespectful. Granny Ming in this family, who dares to treat you as a servant? Everyone in the clan respects Granny Ming. The girl's green dress fluttered. Her eyes were shining. All right, it's time to go back to the secret room. Your health is important. Nothing can happen to you. The old woman looked kindly at the girl. She seemed to have something on her mind. However, she restrained herself and pretended to ignore the girl. She smiled at the girl. Granny Ming, I want to go out for a while. Can I? The girl raised her head and looked at the old woman. Her eyes were filled with anticipation. Hearing that, the old woman didn't say anything. She suppressed the ripples in her heart. Then she smiled faintly and said to the girl, You know, your body is important. Although you are born with a sovereign body, you can't leave the clan for even half a step. All these years, the clan has been trying their best to find a solution. I heard that they have already found a cure. When your body is fine, no one in the clan will stop you if you want to go out and play. After saying that, the old woman forced a smile. On her kind and wrinkled face, there was an unnoticeable sigh. All right. The girl was silent for a moment. She then nodded and smiled. Her beauty could topple countries. She then looked up at the sky and murmured, Brother, father, there will be a day when I find you. Wait for me, it won't be long. Granny Ming, then I will return to the secret chamber. Tell my mother that I will visit her in a few days. As soon as she finished speaking, the woman's beautiful figure slowly descended from the top of the mountain. She was like a fairy descending to the mortal world. Looking at the girl's back, the old woman stood quietly on top of the mountain. She didn't say anything for a long time. Her heart was filled with sadness. Then she murmured softly, What a pitiful child. After saying that, The old woman suddenly looked up and said, "Come out." Chi, a silhouette appeared. There were some ripples in the air. An old man in his 50s appeared behind the old woman. The old man's temperament was extraordinary. He was very respectful to the old woman and said, "Greetings, Elder Ming. Has the clan made a decision?" The old woman asked softly. On her wrinkled face, there was sadness. The old man nodded and said, "The clan has made a decision. If Xiaojing wants to be completely healed, there is only one way. Otherwise, Xiaojing won't be able to hold on for much longer." Ao Tong doesn't know about that method, right? The old woman said softly. She seemed to want to say something but stopped. After that, she didn't say anything else. Of course Ao Tong doesn't know. Xiaojing doesn't know either. This is already the last method. The old man said. The old woman was silent for a while. She turned around slightly. She seemed a little old. She looked at the old man and said, "Why do you have to tell me about this? Hasn't the clan already made a decision?" The old man said respectfully, "Xiaojing was brought up by Elder Ming. Xiaojing even treats Elder Ming like his own grandmother. Therefore, the clan leader hopes that Elder Ming can go with him to ensure that everything goes smoothly." Sigh. The old woman sighed softly. Her gaze fell on the old man and said, "What if that little guy doesn't agree? For Xiaojing, we can't lose him." The old man said. His eyes were filled with determination. The light in his eyes was like stars. His aura spread out and merged with the heaven and earth. This family is pitiful. That father and son are even more pitiful. Ao Tong and Xiaojing, if they know about this in the future, how will they live? The old woman's eyes seemed to be a little moist. Her body trembled slightly. The dark forest was still incomparably chaotic. But now, the chaos in the dark forest had formed a certain rule. This rule couldn't be separated from the World Alliance. Without a doubt, the World Alliance now controlled the entire dark forest. And the World Alliance had long been the #1 force in the dark forest. No one could shake it. The Dark City was still extraordinarily lively. However, it was no longer the only center of the dark forest. Because in the dark forest, besides the Dark City, there was also the chaotic Demon City. With the presence of the World Society, the current prosperity of the chaotic Demon City was even greater than that of the original Dark City. Early in the morning, the chaotic Demon City was quiet. The first ray of morning light pierced through the thin fog. The dawn arrived, and the entire chaotic Demon City was enveloped in the gentle morning light. Swoosh, swoosh, in the air, in the chaotic Demon City, a dozen figures flew over. Under the morning light, they all looked extraordinary. Among the dozen of people, a purple-robed young man was in the lead. He carried a broadsword wrapped in purple cloth behind his shoulder. Beside him, a white-robed old man looked around and asked, "Junior brother, is this the World Alliance you mentioned?" "Yes, this is the World Alliance." Du Xiaofu looked at the door of the World Alliance that he hadn't seen for a long time. He felt as though he had returned to his home after a long time. After saying that, he walked towards the World Alliance. But the atmosphere seems a little different. Du Xiaofu murmured softly. After crossing millions of mountains, from the dark forest to the chaotic Demon City. Although the journey seemed normal when he carefully sensed it, it didn't seem too normal. The entire dark forest population seemed to have increased by a lot. And inside and outside the chaotic Demon City, Du Xiaofu could also feel that there was an extremely large population. At this time, the surrounding streets were already quite lively early in the morning. There was also an invisible tension in the atmosphere. The World Alliance is not to be trespassed. As Du Xiaofu walked in, several young disciples of the World Alliance dressed in black came forward to interrogate. It was just that when the disciples of the World Alliance looked at the dozen people in front of them, their bodies trembled for no reason. For some reason, cold sweat broke out on their backs. "Little junior brother, are you the president of the World Alliance or not? Why are there disciples who don't recognize you?" Yu Wanli immediately teased Du Xiaofu when he heard the question. Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly. He reckoned that the World Alliance had been developing well recently, so many of them were new disciples. And he had left the World Alliance for so long, so these new disciples naturally didn't recognize him. President. When the disciples of the World Alliance heard Yu Wanli's words, they were all stunned. They knew that the president was young and was the brave god king of the Stone Dragon Empire, but they had never seen him before. They also didn't know where the president had gone. And now, judging from the old man's tone, the purple-robed youth who suddenly appeared before them seemed to be the president of the World Alliance. However, they didn't dare to be certain. They instantly looked at each other, not knowing what to do. Du Xiaofu looked at the dozen young men and asked, "Are any of the hall masters and incense masters here?" Hall Master Hua, Hall Master Chao, and the others aren't here. The leader of the group was taken aback for a moment before replying respectfully. Although he wasn't sure if this extraordinary youth in front of him was the real president, he didn't dare to offend him and was full of respect. Not in the World Alliance. Du Xiaofu's eyes flickered as he asked, "What about consecrated Yao Wang and Elder Ing Wang? Are they here?" Elder Ing Wang isn't here either, but consecrated Yao Wang seems to be here. The young man's eyes trembled. The purple-robed youth in front of him was able to call out the names of the higher-ups of the World Alliance. It was obvious that he was the president. "Why are you all clustered here?" A coquettish voice sounded from within the World Alliance. Following that, two beautiful figures walked out. One of them was a charming woman with a lithe body that seemed to be silently enchanting. The girl beside him looked to be in her early 20s. She walked out with light steps. Her body was lithe and soft, and her long black hair was naturally draped over her waist. Her temperament was otherworldly, and she was as beautiful as a fairy that had walked out of a painting. Even the enchanting and charming girl beside her was suppressed by her beauty. At this moment, the solitary sword king, Golden Condor King, and the others behind Du Xiaofu could not help but take a few more glances at these two beautiful women. Even though they had traveled extensively and met countless people, it was still difficult for them to see such beautiful women. "Greetings, Hall Master Li and Miss Murong." The dozen or so young men from the World Alliance turned around and looked at the two beautiful women. They immediately bowed respectfully and didn't even dare to raise their heads. At this moment, the two women's gazes landed on the purple-robed youth in front of them. The two women's lithe bodies seemed to have been electrocuted, and their curvaceous bodies became even more perfect and alluring. Chapter 738. Looking at the resolute and familiar face, the charming woman's delicate red lips opened a few times in shock. She immediately went forward and bowed. "Greetings, President." "President, it really is the President." The dozen or so World Society disciples saw Hall Master Li bow and their faces turned pale. They quickly bowed. "Greetings, President." This disciple didn't know it was the President. "Please forgive us. Dispense with the formalities." Du Xiaofu waved his purple robe sleeve and smiled slightly, indicating for everyone to dispense with the formalities. Then, he looked at the lithe and tender figure of the woman in front of him. Her curves were wonderful, and she had an ancient temperament. He said, "How has the association been recently?" "The society is fine. Everything is going well. However, something happened outside." The woman had an ancient temperament, like a fairy that had walked out of a painting. It was Murong Yor. Hearing that, Du Xiaofu was relieved that the World Society would be fine. "President, why did you suddenly come back?" The charming woman stepped forward. Her pink lips were slightly pouting, as if she wanted to attract people to kiss her. She was the current hall master of the Moon Shadow Hall, Li Shui. "I came back to take a look." Du Xiaofu smiled and introduced his third senior brother, Yu Wanli, to the two women. "Let me introduce you. This is my third senior brother." "Greetings, senior." Li Shui and Murong Yorua bowed. Their expressions changed as they looked at Yu Wanli and the people behind him. That formless aura seemed to have frozen the space, causing the profound energy in their bodies to solidify. "Ha, no need to be so polite. I'm not old yet. You can just call me third senior brother Yu in the future." Yu Wanli smiled and asked Du Xiaofu, "Junior brother, which of these two is your wife? Both of them are so beautiful. Compared to Muhan, they aren't much better." Murong Yorua and Li Shui's faces turned red when they heard Yu Wanli's words. Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly and scratched the back of his head awkwardly. He said to Wan Li, "Third senior brother, you're joking. None of them are. Then you have to hurry up. Your other senior brothers and sisters haven't married yet. You can't learn from us. You have to make the first move on such a beautiful girl," Yuan Li said with a smile, causing Murong Yorua and Li Shui to lower their heads in silence. Their ears were flushed red. A moment later, only Du Xiaofu, Murong Yorua, Li Shui, and a very fat youth were present in the World Society's main hall. This young man was very fat, but he was very good-looking. His fat face was somewhat handsome, and he always had a smile on his face, like a smiling Buddha. He was Meng Laikai. Du Xiaofu sat at the head of the hall with a solemn expression. When he heard from Meng Laikai, Murong Yuyu, and Li Shui that Du Xiaoqing, Du Xiaoyao, and Little Tiger hadn't returned, the last trace of hope in his heart dissipated. The Medicine King had been in seclusion for 3 months. 3 months ago, the Medicine King went out and seemed to have obtained a lot of opportunities. He had been in seclusion ever since he returned. As for Yi Piaoling and Changguyu, they had left the Dark Forest 3 months ago to train in the Central Plains. It was said that the General, Ghost Child, Guo Xiaofeng, Black Hawk, and Tang Wu had already left for the Central Plains before Yi Piaoling and Changguyu. However, not long after the Medicine King went into seclusion, the Stone Dragon Empire encountered a huge crisis. The Tianhu Empire, Zhenghong Empire, and Jinshan Empire joined forces and attacked the Stone Dragon Empire at lightning speed. For a time, the Stone Dragon Empire was forced to retreat. The Stone Dragon Empire was no match for the 3 empires. It was said that the Tianhu Empire was stronger than the Stone Dragon Empire, not to mention the Zhenghong Empire and Jinshan Empire. The Stone Dragon Empire couldn't defeat the 3 empires, so they could only seek help from the World Society. The Medicine King and the Eagle King had a discussion. The guild leader is the brave God King of the Stone Dragon Empire and has a close relationship with the Stone Dragon Empire. Furthermore, if the Stone Dragon Empire is destroyed, the Dark Forest will be affected. Hence, the World Society and the Celestial Beast Hall sent all of our elites to the battlefield, leaving only the Eagle King to oversee the situation. However, the Mu Clan Fort and the Myriad Cloud Pavilion didn't make any changes. If the Dark Forest is in danger, we won't even be able to resist. Li Shui's mouth was dry from all the talking. She paused for a moment to lick her dry lips and continued to speak to Du Xiaofu. However, the Stone Dragon Empire is still losing rapidly. Dozens of cities have already fallen to the 3 empires. In the end, the Eagle King had no choice but to go and support them. Right now, the World Society doesn't have any experts other than the Medicine King who is in seclusion. Du Xiaofu's expression turned solemn. If he was here, he wouldn't just stand by and watch the Stone Dragon Empire being besieged. After all, he was the brave God King of the Stone Dragon Empire and had a good relationship with the Stone Dragon Empire. He also had connections with Cheng Xingnan and the North Vanquishing Monarch. What's the situation now? Du Xiaofu was very worried. The Stone Dragon Empire might not be able to withstand the 3 empires besieging them. The Du House, the head of the 8 houses of the Stone Dragon Empire, was now only in name. The Stone Dragon Empire had already lost a lot of strength. This was probably one of the reasons why the 3 empires had joined forces to besiege the Stone Dragon Empire. The Moon Shadow Hall has been paying attention to the news. We receive the latest news every 3 days. Li Shui narrowed her eyes and said to Du Xiaofu, 3 days ago, we received news that the Tianhu Empire, the Zhenhong Empire, and the Jinshan Empire have already mobilized their kings and 6-star talisman masters. The real battle has begun and the Stone Dragon Empire has suffered heavy losses. We should receive the latest news today, but the situation isn't optimistic. They've really mobilized their kings and 6-star talisman masters. Du Xiaofu's expression turned serious and he frowned. The 3 empires had truly mobilized their kings and 6-star talisman masters. If they joined forces, the Stone Dragon Empire's kings and 6-star talisman masters wouldn't be able to resist. The consequences could be imagined. Where is the army fighting right now? After a while, Du Xiaofu asked the 3 of them. 3 days ago, the army fought near Enlightenment City. It's quite far from Chaos Demon City. Even a martial lord would need 2 days to reach there. If the Stone Dragon Empire can resist the allied forces of the Tianhu Empire and the other empires, they should still be near Enlightenment City. Meng Lightsai's smile was replaced by a solemn expression. He said to Du Xiaofu, but if the Stone Dragon Empire is still defeated, they should be near Enlightenment City. Du Xiaofu raised his head. Golden light flickered in his clear eyes as he said, I'll head to Enlightenment City in 2 hours. Meng Laikai and Li Shui weren't surprised by Du Xiaofu's words. Murong Yurua looked at Du Xiaofu and said, I'll go with you. I know the way. Perhaps it'll be faster. Du Xiaofu shook his head and said, there's no one left in Chaos Demon City. The 3 of you have to guard the city. Just tell me the location. All right. Murong Yurua nodded and didn't say anything else. After a while, Li Shui and Meng Laikai left. Du Xiaofu asked Murong Yurua to stay. He roughly told her about the Murong clan in Fertile Field City. Thank you. A rather complicated expression flashed through Murong Yurua's eyes when she heard that. She hesitated for a moment before the corners of her mouth curled up. She said to Du Xiaofu, be careful after you go to Enlightenment City. Don't try to show off too much. The Tianhu Empire and the other 2 empires have many experts. The Stone Dragon Empire isn't the World Assembly. Okay, I'll be careful. Du Xiaofu nodded at Murong Yurua. Murong Yurua raised her eyes and looked at Du Xiaofu. There were faint ripples in her eyes. She said to Du Xiaofu softly, your elder sister Xiaoman and little Shuang are both here. I hope they are safe and sound. After a while, Du Xiaofu, Yuanli, Mysterious Dragon King, Golden Condor King, Solitary Sword King and others were all in the valley behind the World Assembly. Even the unlucky Ice Python King was among them. Chapter 739. Hearing the Stone Turtle King and the Flame Carp King's words, the coldness in Du Xiaofu's eyes dissipated and a smile appeared on his face. However, this smile couldn't hide the seriousness that was hard to disperse. The Stone Dragon Empire was under siege. Big Sister, Second Brother, Ouyang Shuang, Eagle King, Silver Winged Demonic Eagle, Blue Flame Red Leopard, and Subduing Tiger Mastiff were all in battle. This made Du Xiaofu worried. He wanted to subdue the Stone Turtle King and the Flame Carp King. Du Xiaofu also wanted to have more help from the Stone Turtle King and the Flame Carp King when the time came. TSK Tisk. Yuanli released the seals on the Flame Carp King and the Stone Turtle King. The runes on the sea-suppressing Stone Turtle and the Demon Flaming Carp King's bodies started to flicker. In the end, they turned into their human forms and bowed respectfully to Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu waved his hand to signal the Flame Carp King and the Stone Turtle King to stand up. He then looked at everyone and said seriously, we are all on the same side now. There are some things that I don't plan to hide. However, I have to warn you first. If anyone dares to leak anything, don't blame me for being rude. As soon as he finished speaking, a stream of light appeared between Du Xiaofu's eyebrows. The misty light spread out and an ancient aura swept out. Walala! The ancient desolate space appeared and turned into a spatial door. What kind of treasure is this? Everyone was shocked. Feeling the misty aura, it was definitely not an ordinary treasure. After a while, in the ancient desolate space, in the misty space, under everyone's shocked gazes, Du Xiaofu took out many healing elixirs and gave them to the Solitary Sword King, Chan Yuxiu, and the others. At this moment, the Solitary Sword King, Mysterious Dragon King, and the others were all injured and their injuries weren't light. Even Chan Yuxiu and the others hadn't recovered from their injuries yet. After giving the healing elixirs to everyone, Du Xiaofu said seriously, this is a treasure. There are many benefits in it. It will be beneficial for your cultivation. I will explain it to you all in detail another day. Now, you all should quickly heal your injuries. When the time comes, I Xiaofu Chan Yuxiu Xiu. Everyone nodded. They were very curious about this space, but they didn't ask too much. After instructing everyone, Du Xiaofu and third senior brother Yuanli left the desolate ancient space. That treasure is extraordinary, Yuanli whispered. He could sense that the aura in the desolate ancient space was different. That's something left behind by my former sect. Du Xiaofu said to his third senior brother, Yuan Li, this time, we might have to ask third senior brother for help. Junior brother, you are too polite. We are fellow disciples. There is no need to be so courteous. Yuan Li smiled. Whoosh whoosh. At noon, when the sun was high in the sky, two figures soared into the sky from the World Assembly in the Chaos Demon City. Their bodies were wrapped in light, and they were like rainbows. After a few flashes, they disappeared into the sky. The guild master has only been back for half a day, and now he's leaving again. On the towering peak of the World Club's back mountain, Li Shui's eyes moved slightly with some ripples. Murong Yurua's bright eyes were half closed as she looked at the figure that had already disappeared into the distance with a few flashes. Murong Yurua turned to look at Li Shui and smiled. That guy looks ferocious, but in fact, he is full of affection. There are too many people he cares about. He can't be worried. Li Shui retracted her gaze and looked at Murong Yurua. Her delicate red lips slightly parted, and her eyes narrowed. I hope the president won't encounter any danger. Murong Yurua pursed her lips and smiled. Don't worry, nothing will happen to him. If I'm not wrong, third senior brother Yu and the people he brought are all very strong. They are even stronger than the Eagle King. The Stone Dragon Empire had been in turmoil recently. Everyone was in a state of panic. Many people began to flee the war and began to rush into the dark forest. Some people even began to cut down trees in the dark forest to build a city to avoid being affected by the flames of war. For the civilians, the flames of war were merciless. They could only hide. 3 months ago, the Tianhu Empire, Jinshan Empire, and Zhenghong Empire's armies pressed against the Stone Dragon Empire. Countless cities in the Stone Dragon Empire fell. Countless people died. Rivers of blood flowed. The Stone Dragon Empire couldn't do anything by itself. Even if the World Assembly and Celestial Beast Hall helped, they still couldn't resist. Compared to the allied armies of the three empires, the World Assembly and Celestial Beast Hall's full support seemed insufficient. When Du Xiaofu stepped into the Stone Dragon Empire's territory, he could feel the solemn atmosphere. Everyone was in a state of panic and uneasiness. At dusk, red clouds filled the sky. Two figures flashed across the boundless sky. The sound of wind breaking resounded, causing spatial ripples to ripple. Then, the two silhouettes quickly disappeared in midair, leaving behind two faintly discernible oppressive auras. The two figures were Du Xiaofu and Yuan Li. The two of them hurried towards Enlightenment City. After arriving at the Stone Dragon Empire's territory, the two of them inquired about some news along the way. Sure enough, the Stone Dragon Empire was retreating. 1/3 of the Stone Dragon Empire's territory had fallen into the hands of the Tianhu Empire and the other two empires. It wasn't hard to see that the Tianhu Empire and the other three empires had put in a lot of effort to take away 1/3 of the Stone Dragon Empire's territory in such a short period of time. However, according to Du Xiaofu's information, the World Assembly, Celestial Beast Hall, and many other forces and sects in the Stone Dragon Empire were still resisting the Stone Dragon Empire's army in Enlightenment City. It was said that there were already several Martial King realm battles. There were countless casualties and rivers of blood. The Stone Dragon Empire and many other forces and sects tried their best to resist the Stone Dragon Empire's army, but they barely managed to hold Enlightenment City. There were also rumors that the Tianhu Empire, Jinshan Empire, and Zhenghong Empire's true experts hadn't arrived yet. The experts were still gathering. It wouldn't be long before the real battle between the experts began. Currently, the elites and experts of the Stone Dragon Empire were all gathered in Enlightenment City. Once the Stone Dragon Empire was defeated again, the Stone Dragon Empire would no longer be able to resist the Tianhu Empire and the other three empires. They would be driven straight into the imperial capital, Dragon City. Du Xiaofu was even more worried when he heard this news. He had to speed up his journey. Enlightenment City was surrounded by mountains on 3 sides and plains on the other side. Enlightenment City was also the center of many big cities around it. It was one of the biggest cities in the Stone Dragon Empire other than the imperial capital, Dragon City. It had a large population and a large area. Enlightenment City was surrounded by mountains on 3 sides. It was built against the mountains and the front of the city was facing the vast plains. It was nighttime. The night shrouded the city walls. The moon shone brightly in the sky and the surroundings were shrouded by red clouds. The bright moon emitted a red glow and the air was filled with the aura of blood. The towering city walls were more than 100 feet tall. Under the moonlight, runes were flickering on the towering city walls. Countless figures were flickering around the city walls. The defense was like an iron bucket that couldn't be crossed. There were towers and palaces on top of the city walls. Many figures were standing on top of the central palace. They were bathed in the moonlight and the atmosphere was heavy. The blood moon is in the sky. It's a bad omen. North Vanquishing Prince looked up at the sky. His eyes, which were bright without any turbidity, were full of solemnity at this moment. Grandpa, don't worry. The Stone Dragon Empire is united. We will definitely survive this disaster. Xie Fei stood there quietly. On her beautiful face, her eyes were flickering. The night wind blew, and a few strands of her hair casually fluttered around her waist. It felt as if they were blown away by the wind. It's easier said than done. The previous battles of the three empires were just probing. I'm afraid that the next battle will be the real big one. They are purposely luring us here so that they can catch us all in one fell swoop. The plain robe on his skinny body looked like a bamboo pole carrying a cloth bag. North Vanquishing King was so skinny that his chest was sticking to his robe, which vaguely looked like strips of blinds. North Vanquishing Prince had been in the military for his entire life. He could guess the purpose of the other side. The Tianhu Empire wanted to kill all the strong cultivators of the Stone Dragon Empire in one fell swoop. They had deliberately attracted all the strong cultivators of the Stone Dragon Empire. Come on then. We'll just fight it out. An old man with a resolute face shouted. It was obvious that when he was young, he was handsome and elegant. At this moment, his aura was fluctuating. He was the king of the south of the Stone Dragon Empire, Ouyangqi. He was once a disciple of Tianwu Academy. Fight to the last breath. I, Jinghua, will shed my last drop of blood for the empire. An old man with an imposing aura shouted. He was the East Vanquishing King, Jinghua. He used to be a student of the Tianwu Academy. We, the World Society, will never back down. On the city gate tower, a burly man in short clothes was looking at the night sky in front of him. One of his left eyes was covered with an eye patch, while the other eye was shining brightly in the night sky. It was as sharp as a big knife. The one-eyed man was the Eagle King's Gong Dao. His face was slightly pale. He had been through an unusual battle during the day and had consumed a lot of energy. The World Society will fight to the last man. Let's fight it out with them. A young man dressed in a cloud robe stood tall and straight. His black hair was shoulder-length and unbound, giving him an imposing appearance. On his handsome face, his gaze was deep and sharp. He was the vice president of World Society, Du Yunlong. Beside Du Yunlong was a girl who was about the same age as him. She had a graceful figure and long, black hair that was as smooth as a waterfall was loosely tied up. Her eyes were ethereal and her face was pretty. She had an indescribable charm. She was none other than Du family's Du Xiaoman. Behind Eagle King's Gong Dao, Du Yunlong and Du Xiaoman were the silver-winged demonic condor, azure flame scarlet leopard, subduing tiger mastiff, Hua Fan Kong, Chao Yu, Bai Qi, and Xia Wenxing. This lineup made people look askance at each other, their expressions changing. Xiao Yu is going to rise this month. So, there will be an update tomorrow. Xiao Yu also asked for fresh flowers to thank his brothers and sisters. Chapter 740. The reputation of the World Society and the Heavenly Beast Hall spread throughout the Stone Dragon Empire's army. If it weren't for the World Society and the Heavenly Beast Hall, the Stone Dragon Empire wouldn't have lasted until now. Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, Eagle King Gong Dao, Chao Yu, Hua Fan Kong, and the Heavenly Beast Hall's silver-winged demonic eagle, blue flame red leopard, and subduing tiger mastiff were even more famous. They had killed countless enemies and made the Tianhu Empire's army fearful. On the city tower, beside the south-guarding prince, Ouyangqi, there was a woman in a tight dress. She had a graceful and seductive figure, slender legs, and a perfect body. In addition to her already beautiful face, the woman was simply captivating. Her eyes were jet black and bright. However, at this moment, her unapproachable temperament seemed to be a little tired. "Sister Xiaoman, is there any news about that guy?" the woman said to the young woman with ethereal eyes who was not far away from her. Swoosh! Hearing the woman's words, many people's gazes shifted. Including the North-guarding prince, Xie Fei, and the silver-winged demonic eagle, they all looked at Du Xiaoman. Du Xiaoman shook her head and said, "No news yet. After third brother went to the central region, there hasn't been any news." Hearing that, everyone sighed and felt disappointed. That young man had left behind too many miracles. If that young man was here now, he might be able to make the Tianhu Empire a nightmare. At dawn, the world fell into darkness. Even the blood moon was covered. Rumble, dark clouds suddenly gathered in the sky and covered the entire Enlightenment City. The ground and space trembled faintly. "Everyone, get ready. For our empire, we will fight to the death." In the Enlightenment City, there was a loud roar filled with profound qi that reverberated through the square. Huff huff, hearing that, auras fluctuated in the darkness and shot up into the sky. In the night, countless pairs of eyes shot out. Walala, outside Enlightenment City, on the vast and boundless plain, under the dark clouds, countless figures gradually appeared. The darkness before dawn gradually dissipated, revealing the countless soldiers on the plains. It was a sea of people. Their armors flickered, and their weapons flickered with runes. Their auras were sharp and murderous. "Kill all those who resist." Amidst the endless sea of people, earth-shattering sounds of battle rang out from the army of shining armors. His voice was like a clap of thunder, shaking the entire Enlightenment City and causing a rumbling noise to echo out. On the city wall of Enlightenment City, countless gazes were solemn. The Stone Dragon Empire's army looked at the sea of people with solemn expressions. How could they not know that the Stone Dragon Empire couldn't contend against the three empires? They were constantly being suppressed and forced to retreat. A third of the Stone Dragon Empire's territory had fallen into the hands of the three empires. If Enlightenment City fell today, the entire Stone Dragon Empire would no longer have the power to resist. "Everyone there here. This battle will depend on us. If we can't resist them, the empire behind us won't be able to resist them." North Vanquishing Prince looked at the dense army in the distance and a cold aura spread out from his body. Boom! As the North Vanquishing Prince's voice faded away, numerous figures leaped into the sky and hovered in the air in the boundless square. Waves of vast and mighty auras swept through the sky and enveloped the entire area. There were no less than 30 figures in the air. Each of them had the aura of a Martial King Realm expert. Martial King Realm. So many Martial King Realm experts. It seems like the Tianhu Empire, Jinshan Empire, and Zhenghong Empire have launched an all-out attack. Eagle King Gong Dao looked forward and felt the terrifying aura spreading from the bodies of no less than 30 people. His expression suddenly turned extremely grave. 30 Martial King Realm experts. That was definitely the combined strength of the three empires. On the vast plain, 30 Martial King Realm experts hovered in the air. The one in the lead was a middle-aged man. He was more than 10 feet tall and wore a black robe. His huge body was like a black bear. His chest was bulging and his muscles were bulging. He was filled with explosive power. Looking at the voice coming from the top of Enlightenment City, the bear-like man thundered, "North Vanquishing Prince, your Stone Dragon Empire can't withstand a single blow. If you surrender, you'll still be the king. Why do you have to sacrifice your life for the Chung family?" Hearing the thunderous shout, North Vanquishing Prince looked at the sky and his cold aura surged. It was as if the world had suddenly entered winter. His voice was filled with profound qi as he said, "Giant Bear King, you're not enough to encroach on my Stone Dragon Empire. My Stone Dragon Empire only has soldiers who die in battle. There will never be nobles who surrender. If that's the case, then don't waste your breath." Hearing North Vanquishing Prince's words, Giant Bear King laughed instead of being angry. He waved his fist that was bigger than a clay pot and laughed dryly. Then he shouted, "Listen up, The Three Empires' army, attack the city! The thunderous shout resounded in the sky. The Three Empires' army swarmed toward the top of the city. Waves of terrifying aura burst out, causing the wind and clouds to surge. Set up the formation! South vanquishing Prince Ouyang Qiu shouted. Then, countless deep shouts came from the top of the city wall. A terrifying energy surged from the city wall. Runes soared into the sky, causing the world to tremble. A huge energy light screen traversed the plain and blocked the entire Enlightenment City. It's just a last-ditch struggle. Giant Bear King. In the sky above the plain, beside the Giant Bear King, an old man in his 60s stared at the huge light screen outside Enlightenment City. He said coldly, "Most of their experts should have gathered. After today, there will be no more Stone Dragon Empire. Du Palace has been destroyed. North vanquishing Prince Xie is said to be seriously injured by the cold poison. There's no one else in the Stone Dragon Empire who can fight. Let's get rid of them as soon as possible." A thin man in his 40s said. Giant Bear King smiled and said, "Hongdao Prince, Yuechen Prince, your Zhenhong Empire and Jinshan Empire's army will attack from the left and right. Our Tianhu Empire's army will attack from the front. Let's break the formation first. Zhenhong Empire's army, attack from the left. Jinshan Empire's army, attack from the right. Tianhu Empire's army, attack from the front." Yuechen Prince, Hongdao Prince, and Giant Bear King waved their hands and shouted. As the three shouts rang out, the densely packed army outside Enlightenment City moved in unison, erupting into earth-shattering battle cries. Runes soared into the sky and their aura exploded. Weapons were unsheathed and a murderous aura filled the sky. Rumble! The earth trembled and the mountains crumbled. The endless army, which numbered in the hundreds of millions, rushed toward Enlightenment City like a tide. A terrifying murderous aura filled the sky. On the city tower, countless people held their weapons and waited for the battle. North vanquishing Prince looked serious. He waved his hand and shouted, "Protect the city!" Whoosh 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 whoosh. As soon as North vanquishing Prince finished his words, the runes on the light screen in front of the Enlightenment City started to twist. Then, a large number of rune crossbows were shot out. A terrifying energy spread out. These crossbows were powerful enough to penetrate an ordinary pulse spirit realm cultivator. In an instant, there were many miserable cries from the army of the Three Empires. A large number of people fell to the ground in an instant. Resist the crossbows and break the rune array. Within the Three Empires, loud shouts came out. Then, countless martial lord realm cultivators and 5-star spirit talisman masters flew out and formed a circle of talisman characters to resist the arrows and attack the talisman arrays on the city walls. Bang bang bang. In an instant, the runes soared into the sky and the earth trembled. The rumbling energy explosion was earth-shattering and echoed in the sky. In the Enlightenment City, hundreds of millions of people looked at the sky with a serious expression. In the entire city, women and children were praying. Children were trembling. Strong young men were holding weapons and waiting on the streets. They looked up and the atmosphere was solemn. The rune array outside the Enlightenment City shook and the runes began to break. The city wall was on the verge of collapse. The North vanquishing Prince, the South vanquishing Prince, the East vanquishing Prince, the Eagle King, Gong Dao, and the others all looked at the more than 30 people floating in the sky. They were the ones that they were truly afraid of. There were more than 30 martial kings. In a war like this, only martial king realm cultivators could decide the outcome. The total number of martial king realm cultivators in the Stone Dragon Empire was only around 10 people, but the enemy had 3 times the number. Break the array! On the plain, battle cries resounded. Among the allied forces of the Three Empires, the armies in 3 directions had reached a tacit understanding. Energy ribbons and light pillars wrapped around the runes, and like meteorites, they all fell on the light screen of the runes that traversed Enlightenment City. Bang bang bang. The light barrier of the rune array was already on the verge of collapse. It could no longer withstand the attacks of the experts of the 3 armies. Suddenly, It cracked and turned into countless runes that exploded in the sky. The terrifying rune energy was like a beautiful firework. The energy ripples were undulating, containing a destructive energy. Walala, the rune array was broken. The first barrier of the Enlightenment City was destroyed in less than 15 minutes. The winding city wall and the army of the Stone Dragon Empire were exposed to the three armies. Kill! The shouts of killing were earth-shattering. The three armies rushed out together and their figures spread out in all directions. Roar! Among them, there were many huge demonic beasts that appeared in the sky. Their energy filled the sky and they fiercely rushed towards the army of the Stone Dragon Empire. Kill! The army of the Stone Dragon Empire shouted and their figures collided with each other. Roar! On the city wall, the pale flame red leopard roared. Then, a huge wave of demonic beasts rushed out from the army of the Stone Dragon Empire. Chapter 741. Roar! The beast horde roared like an earthquake. The roar shook the heavens and earth. In the sky, ferocious beasts roared as they flapped their wings and circled around like dark clouds. The shockwave swept across like a hurricane. Roar! Within the army of demonic beasts, there was a huge yellow python hovering in the air like a huge dragon. Half of its huge body was still hidden in the clouds high up in the sky. Its whole body was emitting a cold aura that made people's hearts tremble for no reason. A lion stood tall. It was as huge as a mountain and its aura was shocking. A huge bear stood tall. It was like a huge mountain moving horizontally. The ferocious beasts flapped their wings. Their sharp claws were enough to pierce through mountains. The ferocious beasts on the ground roared. Their fangs were terrifying and their eyes were shining with different colored runes. The ferocious beasts roared again and again. It was like thunder that resounded in all directions. Wherever they passed, the earth quaked and the mountains shook. Rumble! The terrifying beast horde surged. It shook people's soul and their aura was terrifying. It was enough to make people's hair stand on end. The Heavenly Beast Hall's beast horde was the most dreaded army in the entire Stone Dragon Empire. Countless armies of the three great empires were buried in the mouth of this beast horde. The Heavenly Beast Hall's beast horde was the trump card of the entire Stone Dragon Empire. Rumble! The huge demonic beast army was as large as a courtyard. Their fangs were frightening, and their eyes were emitting various symbols and fierce lights. Various deafening roars and roars were deafening. Bang, 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 the battle was about to start. Within the army, there were people who were sent flying as miserable cries resounded. Kill! Fight! The battle cries filled the sky. Countless bodies exploded in the battle and blood flowed like a river. Rumble! Beams of energy whizzed past, the runes spread and the radiance of the swords and spears soared into the sky. The battle between the two sides became intense as energy ripples spread across the land. In a short time, blood flowed like a river and wails were everywhere. In the sky, Giant Bear King, Moon King, and Hongdao King were watching the battle below with cold eyes. After that, the three of them looked at each other and came to a tacit understanding. The three of them waved their hands behind them. Immediately, nearly 30 auras surged out. The vast auras swept out, causing the world to tremble. Nearly 30 Martial King realm cultivators unleashed their auras. Then, they dove down like meteors into the army of the Stone Dragon Empire with dazzling runes. Rumble! After the 30 figures rushed into the army of the Stone Dragon Empire, many of them exploded under the pressure of the Xian Qi and turned into blood mist. There were countless casualties. The Martial King realm cultivators had already started attacking. Everyone, let's do it. As soon as Lord North vanquishing North's voice faded, his lean body leaped into the air. Horrifying coldness spread out in the air. The Stone Dragon Empire's south protecting king, Ouyang Qi, is here. Those who offend the Stone Dragon Empire will be killed. The Stone Dragon Empire's east vanquishing prince is here. Those who invade our territory will be killed. Two figures wrapped in runes took the lead to rush out. They were none other than the Stone Dragon Empire's King of the South, Ouyang Qi, and King of the East, Zhenghua. Then, The remaining kings of the Stone Dragon Empire leaped into the air. Their bodies were shrouded in multicolored light and terrifying auras filled the air. They started attacking with all their might. At this moment, the experts of the Stone Dragon Empire rushed towards the kings of the other 3 empires. The king of the south, Ouyang Qi, had a resolute look on his face as he quickly attacked. Talisman runes surged out from his hands and swept through the army of the 3 empires. He then attacked a king of the Tianhu Empire who was rushing over. Those who invade our territory will be paid with blood. The East Vanquishing Prince's imposing figure soared into the sky. His aura suppressed the mountains and rivers. Then he slammed his palm down. Runes soared into the sky and suppressed the mountains and rivers. A large number of the allied forces were turned into blood mist. A handsome man rushed out. He was the Lanling Prefecture's palace master, Ouyang Ling. His aura had already reached the initial stage of the martial king realm. He waved his hand and attacked a king of the other side. Be careful! The Eagle King pointed his gong blade at Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, and the others beside him. As soon as he finished speaking, his body shot forward, and his claws swept through the air, tearing the allied army into pieces like ghosts. In the end, he was stopped by the enemy's king. Du Yunlong's 1,000-kill battle blade burst out with runes and rushed out. Rumble! The army was endless. There were talisman masters who set up talisman arrays that covered the sky and the sun. It was terrifying. The terrifying talisman arrays killed a large number of the allied forces in an instant. Miserable screams could be heard. Break the array! Some experts joined forces to break the array and destroy it, causing the talisman masters to suffer a backlash. North Vanquishing Prince, you refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. You're getting old. The giant bear king soared into the sky and blocked the North Vanquishing Prince. Then he launched a series of fierce attacks towards the North Vanquishing Prince. Let's deal with this old man first. The Moon King and Hongdao King moved together and besieged the North Vanquishing Prince. They wanted to kill the North Vanquishing Prince first. This was the soul of the Stone Dragon Empire's army. Gee! The roar of a beast reverberated through the heavens and earth like thunder. It was accompanied by a terrifying aura that spread across the sky. The silver-winged demonic condor took action and transformed into its huge body. It rushed out like lightning and instantly appeared behind the North Vanquishing Prince and attacked the Moon King. A complete Beast King realm silver-winged demonic condor, damn it. The Moon King cursed. He unleashed his peak complete martial king realm cultivation, but it was difficult to suppress the silver-winged demonic condor. Let's fight to the end. The East Vanquishing Prince took action and unleashed an aura that could suppress mountains and rivers, blocking the Hongdao King. The blue flame red leopard activated its huge body and pounced towards the allied forces. It roared and waved its claws, causing blood to splatter everywhere. It was unstoppable. The subduing tiger mastiff took action. Its body was majestic and its aura was terrifying. Wherever it passed, the allied forces were blasted apart by the sound waves. The battle between the allied forces caused the heavens and earth to boil. In the midst of the battle, ferocious birds flapped their wings and a storm swept across the sky. The ferocious beasts waved their claws, covering the heavens and earth. Large groups of people were crushed into blood mist. Flesh and blood flew everywhere and blood flowed like a river. Large groups of people were crushed into pieces. The two armies collided and wails of agony could be heard. Blood was dripping and flowing like a river. Large groups of beast souls roared across the sky. The scene was like hell. Evil Qi filled the sky and mournful songs resounded through the 9 heavens. The Stone Dragon Empire army was unable to contend against the allied forces of the 3 empires. In addition, many martial king realm experts from the 3 empires intervened and the number of martial marquis realm experts multiplied. They began to lose ground. Corpses were everywhere and countless figures fell. Let's fight to the end. Let's fight to the death. The eyes of the Stone Dragon Empire soldiers turned red. Seeing their comrades fall, their bodies trembled with excitement and they roared angrily. Bang bang bang, even so, the Stone Dragon Empire army was unable to contend against them. Large groups of people were blasted apart. Wails of agony and the smell of blood filled the air. The roars of various demonic beasts were deafening. Dozens of Martial King Realm experts were fighting above the crowd. The Martial King Realm experts of the Stone Dragon Empire, the Silver-Winged Demonic Condor, the Blue Flame Red Leopard, and the Subduing Tiger Mastiff were all surrounded and suppressed. The situation became more and more serious. Rumble, the city wall finally collapsed. The winding and towering city wall was blasted apart. Boulders flew everywhere and countless figures were smashed. Raze Enlightenment City to the ground. The allied forces of the three empires shouted. They wanted to raze Enlightenment City to the ground. Run, run! The city wall collapsed. The allied forces of the three empires invaded Enlightenment City. Mournful cries and wails resounded through the sky. The courtyards in the city collapsed and the streets were blasted apart. Countless civilians were engulfed and turned into meat paste. It was a horrible sight. This is a catastrophe. God, please save us. An old man knelt down and prayed sincerely, hoping that the heavens would show mercy. Mother, demonic beasts roared. Blood splattered everywhere. A 7- or 8-year-old girl knelt down and cried. Beside her, her mother was lying in a pool of blood. She was so scared that her body was trembling. A demonic beast from the three empires flew across the sky. It flapped its wings and clawed at the girl with its sharp claws. A beautiful woman in tight clothes appeared. Her sexy figure was outlined under the tight clothes. Her eyes were black and bright. Killing intent gushed out from her. She slashed the demonic beast in half with her sword. Little girl, get out of here. The beautiful woman's face was pale. Her delicate body landed beside the little girl and let the little girl leave. TSK, such a rare girl. I'll capture you first and enjoy you later. A sinister sneer was heard. A skinny old man in black clothes appeared. He was a Martial King Realm expert. A palm print landed on the beautiful woman in tight clothes. The woman in tight clothes was engulfed. Blood spurted out from her mouth. She could not resist the attack. Her delicate body was instantly flung away. Watch out. A beautiful woman in a red dress dashed out quickly. She had crescent brows and bright eyes. Her gaze was solemn. The sword in her hand flashed and shrouded the old man in black. Although she's old, she's not bad. Could it be that she's a mother and a daughter? Seems like I'm quite lucky. The old man in black sneered. He did not take it seriously and attacked with his claw. The mysterious Martial King Realm aura burst out. The old man in black destroyed the sword light of the beautiful woman in red dress. He grabbed the long sword in her hand and slapped her shoulder with his palm. The shoulder of the beautiful woman in red dress trembled. Blood spurted out from her mouth and her body was instantly flung away. Chapter 742. Mother! The woman stood up and walked to the side of the beautiful woman in the red dress. Her long black hair was messy and her body was stained with blood. She helped the beautiful woman in the red dress up. What a pair of mother and daughter. Be obedient and let me capture you. The black-clothed old man laughed coldly. His eyes were filled with filth. He waved his hand and directly enveloped the mother and daughter. The claw was so sharp that it seemed to have distorted the space. The mother and daughter, who had blood dripping from the corners of their mouths, had despair in their eyes. In front of a martial king, they were simply unable to fight back. Chi! Just as the mother and daughter's eyes were filled with despair, a blurry figure in a purple robe suddenly appeared like a ghost. Golden light exploded. The person shook his arm. It seemed slow, but in reality, it was a similar claw. A domineering aura suddenly swept out. At this moment, the black-clothed old man seemed to have felt something. An inexplicable chill spread out from the depths of his soul. The profound chi in his body inexplicably stopped. Then, before the black-clothed old man could react, a golden claw suddenly landed on his claw. Chi-la! The claw collided and golden light exploded. The black-clothed old man's claw was directly caught by the golden claw. Then, a domineering energy that the black-clothed old man could not resist suddenly poured down. Kacha! The black-clothed old man could even clearly hear that his 5 fingers had broken under the other party's claw. Then, his entire arm was directly crushed by the claw. An indifferent and cold voice came out from the purple-robed figure's mouth. Then, a fist landed on the old man's chest with lightning speed. Bang! A low explosion sounded out. The black-clothed old man's body was directly smashed into a bloody mist. It was as easy as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. It was irresistible. Even at the moment of his death, the black-clothed old man did not see who had killed him. He only knew that it was a purple-robed figure. The domineering aura made him unable to resist. All of this happened too quickly. The mother and daughter's expressions changed, and they immediately looked towards the purple-robed figure that had suddenly appeared. It was a young man who carried a broad sword that was wrapped in violet cloth on his back. On his resolute and determined face, his fierce gaze had recovered a trace of clarity and profoundness, and golden talisman markings flickered in his eyes. When they saw the purple-robed young man in front of them, the mother and daughter were instantly dumbfounded. Then their eyes trembled. "Aunt Shan, are you all right?" The purple-robed young man slowly walked to the side of the beautiful woman in the red dress and the young girl in the black dress. Looking at the stunned mother and daughter, he handed the 2 pills in his hand to them. "My child, are you really back?" The beautiful woman in the red dress came back to her senses and caressed the face of the purple-robed young man. Her eyes were trembling and she couldn't believe it. Du Xiaofu smiled, nodded, and said to the beautiful woman in the red dress, "Aunt Shan, we'll talk later. I'll go help first, you take care of yourselves." As soon as he finished speaking, Du Xiaofu's figure had already disappeared from the spot like an afterimage, disappearing from the sight of the 2 women. "It's him, he's here." The beautiful woman in the black dress slowly came back to her senses. Her big eyes rippled, and these ripples were getting more and more intense. In the sky where blood was monstrous and killing was shocking, the wind and clouds surged, and thunder rumbled unceasingly. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. In the distant sky, 17 figures appeared out of thin air and descended on this world. The 17 people stood together, led by an old man in a white robe who looked to be in his 60s. Around his figure, there were traces of imperceptible spatial fluctuations. Beside the old man, there was a burly man in a green robe who looked to be in his 30s. He was handsome, and there was a faint radiance on his forehead. A middle-aged man in a wide golden robe with deep eyes and a high nose bridge. A middle-aged man in a gray robe with a slender figure. On his gray robe, there were several lifelike long swords embroidered on it. A man in a red robe with a blazing aura was spreading out. These 17 people were Yuanli, Mysterious Dragon King, Golden Condor King, Extinction Sword King, Flame Carp King, Stone Turtle King, Ice Python King, Chan Yuxiu, Song Yi, Zhuang Pingyang, Kong Qiguang, Li Yuanshan, and the others. The Mysterious Dragon King, Golden Condor King, and the others were heavily injured. However, in the ancient desolate space, and with the help of Du Xiaofu's medicinal pills, most of them were fine. Those who were seriously injured had mostly recovered. Following the appearance of these people, there was a vast aura that was not hidden. In an instant, it spread out in all directions, causing many powerful people in the battlefield to raise their heads to look. The aura of these 17 people was absolutely terrifying, and it immediately attracted the attention of the King Realm experts from the Stone Dragon Empire and the other 3 empires. Where did these experts come from? They're all martial kings. Giant Bear King, Moon King, Hongdao King, North Vanquishing King, South Vanquishing King, East Vanquishing King, and the others looked over with trembling eyes. Especially the white-robed old man in the front. The more they looked at his aura, the more terrifying it was. The brave god king of the Stone Dragon Empire, Du Xiaofu, is here. Who dares to touch the Stone Dragon Empire? A thunderous roar that contained surging profound qi resounded in all directions like a thunderclap. The sound waves rolled, and it could be heard clearly amidst the thunderous roars. It shook the clouds. At the same time, A purple-robed young man with a wide purple sword on his back suddenly appeared in front of the 17 experts. His entire body was shrouded in golden light. The purple-robed young man was surrounded by a hazy golden halo. His deep eyes flickered with golden light, and an astonishing domineering aura swept out, causing the surrounding space to tremble violently. At this moment, it was as if time had stopped for the entire Stone Dragon Empire army. In an instant, everyone's gazes landed on the purple-robed young man in the sky with astonishment. When the Stone Dragon Empire army that was retreating saw the purple-robed young man in the sky, they were shocked and trembled violently. "He's back! The brave God King is back! The brave God King is finally back! The brave God King of our Stone Dragon Empire is back!" Loud shouts rang out, causing the Stone Dragon Empire army that was retreating to boil with excitement. "The President is back! The Hall Master is back! That's Senior Do!" Countless disciples from the World Society, the demonic beasts from the Sky Beast Hall, and the Tianwu Academy students who were mixed in with them felt their blood boiling. They were so excited that their bodies trembled as they fought with all their might. "It's third brother! The President is back! It's him! He actually appeared at this time." Amidst the fierce battle, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, Han Xian, He Jun, Hua Fankong, Chao Yu, Bai Qi, and the others were stunned when they saw the purple-robed figure in the sky. Then they were overjoyed. "Greetings, Hall Master! Greetings, President!" Amidst the fierce battle, the silver-winged demonic condor, pale flame scarlet leopard, subduing tiger, Chao Yu, and Hua Fankong's shouts resounded through the sky. Mysterious Serpent King, Flame Carp King, Golden Condor King, Solitary Sword King, and Chanyu Xiu, except for those from the Stone Dragon Empire, kill them all. A cold and domineering voice resounded through the sky. Du Xiaofu scanned the area with his spiritual energy before he looked down and waved his hand. "Sir." As Du Xiaofu's hand landed, a terrifying wave of Xian Qi spread across the sky. Every single one of their auras was at the King Realm, causing the color of the sky to change. "That's a Beast King Realm expert. It's a Martial King Realm expert. There's also a 6-star Talisman Master. Oh my God, there are so many experts. Where did they come from?" When the mysterious Flood Dragon King, Golden Condor King, Zhuang Pingyang, and more than a dozen other auras swept across the sky, whether it was the Tianhu Empire or the Stone Dragon Empire, everyone who felt the terrifying aura couldn't help but gasp. Every single one of those people was a king-level master. What a terrifying lineup. Even the North Vanquishing King, South Vanquishing King, East Vanquishing King, Eagle King, and Gong Dao were dumbfounded. The 17 or 18 people were at the Martial King Realm, Beast King Realm, and 6-star Talisman Master. Their aura was extraordinary, proving that they weren't ordinary Martial King Realm and Beast King Realm experts. This terrifying lineup was more than all the King Realm experts in the Stone Dragon Empire. It was enough to wipe out the entire empire. Are these the forces he brought back? Xie Fei, Ouyang Shuang, Yuan Shanshan, and the others looked at the powerful figures in the sky and sighed in their hearts. The mysterious Serpent King had been ravaged miserably not long ago. Although he had obediently surrendered, he was still in a bad mood. As he shouted, his figure suddenly dashed out. "Attack, the people of the Stone Dragon Empire. The Flame Carp King, Stone Turtle King, Golden Condor King, Solitary Sword King, and Chanyu Xiu followed the mysterious Serpent King and charged towards the 3 empires at the same time. As the King Realm experts crossed the sky, a terrifying aura swept across the sky, causing the sky and earth to tremble. As the mysterious Serpent King, Golden Condor King, and Flame Carp King pounced, the King Realm experts of the 3 empires couldn't gain any advantage. They were even at a disadvantage. It's time for the 3rd watch. Today, Xiao Yu will write more chapters. This month, Xiao Yu will work hard to write. Chapter 743. Junior brother, there are still experts hiding in the dark. They are not weak and should have other motives. However, they are still under control. Suddenly, Yuanli said to Du Xiaofu as he looked into the distance. Is that so? Then let them come out. When Du Xiaofu heard this, his eyes shone with a golden light. The golden rune wings on his back condensed and he disappeared from his original spot. Bang! The Lanling mansion master, Ouyang Ling, threw out a palm print at lightning speed. A terrifying gust of wind surged forward. However, the gust of wind did not seem to leak out at all. It was like a circle that enveloped a slender old man with long black hair. You have just reached the martial king realm. You are not strong enough. The black-haired old man sneered. Dazzling runes surged around his body and mysterious runes flashed on his palms. In an instant he threw out a palm to meet the attack. Rumble! A palm print that left a dent in space was thrown out from the black-haired old man's hand. A terrifying aura swept out and caused the space to tremble. The two palm prints collided. The runes scattered and there was a muffled sound. Then they separated upon contact. Deng deng! Ouyang Ling's body was instantly pushed back. Wherever his feet passed, the space rippled. He spat out a mouthful of blood. He was no match for Ouyang Ling. Uncle Ling, are you all right? A figure appeared behind Ouyang Ling. He placed his palm on Ouyang Ling's back and blocked the aftershock. Only then did Ouyang Ling's body stabilize. I'm fine. Ouyang Ling turned his head and looked at Du Xiaofu. His eyes were as clear as morning dew and he was pleasantly surprised. He asked, "Why did you suddenly come back?" "It's a long story. I will tell you another day." Du Xiaofu smiled. He then stepped into the air and looked in front of him. The black-haired old man who had just injured the Lanling mansion master, Ouyang Ling, was staring at him. "Kid, we meet again." The black-haired old man had a slender figure. Multicolored light spread around his body as a mighty aura gushed out from his body. At this moment he was staring at Du Xiaofu. His expression was extremely gloomy and cold. "Xiaofu, this person is the Mirror Moon King of the Tianhu Empire. She should be at the peak of the Nirvana realm in the Martial Lord realm," Ouyang Ling said to Du Xiaofu. His heavily injured body moved forward, wanting to block in front of Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu waved his hand and stopped Ouyang Ling. He looked at Mirror Moon King with a cold glint in his eyes and said, "Uncle Ling, I know this person. I saw her in Dragon City. Leave her to me." As soon as he finished speaking, Du Xiaofu stepped forward and stood in front of Ouyang Ling. As he looked at Mirror Moon King, the coldness in his eyes intensified. This person was one of the kings who had accompanied Lu Kuan to the Stone Dragon Empire's imperial capital. "Be careful." Ouyang Ling was worried. She was an expert at the peak of the Nirvana realm in the Martial King realm. Could this kid deal with her now? "Kid, it's your bad luck to fall into my hands today." Hearing her words, Du Xiaofu acted as if he didn't hear her. Back then Lu Kuan was killed by this kid. How could Mirror Moon King forget Du Xiaofu in front of her? Her figure suddenly flashed and pounced towards Du Xiaofu. A palm print condensed and blasted towards Du Xiaofu. Boom! Mirror Moon King's palm print was as fast as lightning and landed directly on Du Xiaofu's body. A low muffled sound resounded. Berserk energy poured out in torrents, blasting Du Xiaofu's body into pieces. However, not a single drop of blood appeared. How is this possible? Seeing this scene, Ouyang Ling was shocked. It was actually just an afterimage. Du Xiaofu was so fast that he couldn't see it clearly. Oh no! At this moment, Mirror Moon King's expression changed drastically. She wanted to retreat, but it was too late. Golden light burst out and Du Xiaofu's figure silently appeared behind Mirror Moon King. Golden rune wings flapped. Du Xiaofu waved his hand. His hand was like a palm leaf fan, creating a dent in space. Layers of golden runes swept out like the wings of a golden-winged roc and violently struck Mirror Moon King. Chi-la-la! Under many shocked gazes, the body of Mirror Moon King, who was already at the peak of the Martial King realm, was shattered into pieces by the golden wings. Blood splattered across the sky. At this moment, Mirror Moon King had no power to resist. A Martial King at the peak of the Nirvana realm was killed in one move. Huff! In an instant, who knew how many people in the crowd sucked in a breath of cold air? Third Brother's strength is getting more and more terrifying. Du Xiaoman, Du Yunlong, and the others looked at the sky in shock. Those who offend the Stone Dragon Empire will be killed without mercy. After dealing with Mirror Moon King in one move, Du Xiaofu looked at the sky in front of him. His faint voice was like thunder that suddenly resounded across the sky. Those who offend the Stone Dragon Empire will be killed without mercy. In the army of the Stone Dragon Empire, many voices were heard. The brave God King had returned and the martial King realm cultivators couldn't withstand a single blow. Everyone saw hope in the desperate situation. Kill! Du Xiaofu's figure swept out. A terrifying aura suddenly swept out from his body. A pair of rune wings flapped behind his back. He was like a rock spreading its wings and soaring to the 9 heavens. Bang! 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 Wherever Du Xiaofu's figure passed, countless figures in the army of the 3 empires exploded. They couldn't withstand the pressure. Such a terrifying way of killing was terrifying. Boom! At this moment, the purple-robed youth was powerful and overbearing. He flapped his wings and swept across the sky, suppressing everything. It was like a real rock had descended. The overbearing and terrifying aura filled the sky. It was domineering and sharp, crushing everything in its path. Roar! Then, under countless shocked gazes, countless demonic beast vein souls trembled and crawled wherever the purple-robed youth passed. Several martial lord realm cultivators of the 3 empires gathered together and activated their vein souls to besiege the martial lord realm cultivators of the Stone Dragon Empire. Bang! 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 Wherever Du Xiaofu's figure passed, numerous vein souls were destroyed and heavily injured. Rock Chaos Shattering Claw. A claw swept out and the Xian Qi defense of a martial king realm cultivator crumbled like tofu. Then, under the trembling gaze of Du Xiaofu, the martial king realm cultivator's body was torn into a bloody mist. Tyrannical Shadow Change. Du Xiaofu waved his hand. The tyrannical shadow in his hand swept out and turned into an azure gold sword whip. It was extremely dazzling. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The azure gold sword whip was like a rock soaring through the sky. It was strange and unpredictable. Wherever it passed, a large number of martial lord realm cultivators were killed. A martial king realm man spat out a mouthful of blood. He lowered his head and saw that a series of azure golden sword whips had lashed out from his abdomen. A terrifyingly tyrannical energy poured out, and his body exploded. The tyrannical shadow returned to his hand. Energy fluctuated and runes shot into the sky. The golden light was about to drown everything. Du Xiaofu's power was shocking. He walked with the carefree steps and flapped the rune wings on his back. He was like lightning and a ghost in the sky. Kill! Du Xiaofu yelled and rushed into a battle. The tyrannical shadow in his hand was so powerful that it seemed to be able to split the space. 100-foot sword aura swept across the sky and a martial king realm cultivator was killed like an ant. Kill! The sword light spun and turned into an azure gold sword whip. Not far away, a martial king realm cultivator who was fighting with the Eagle King's gong blade didn't have time to react. His body was wrapped in a giant wolf bloodline soul and he was killed by the sword whip. The martial kings couldn't even withstand a single blow from the brave God King. The people of the Stone Dragon Empire felt their blood boil as if they had been injected with a cardiac stimulant. Is there really a God realm cultivator coming to save us? The brave God King is a God realm cultivator. He is here to save us. In the Enlightenment City, countless elders looked up to the sky and bowed. At this moment, the overbearing youth with golden wings was standing in the sky like a God realm cultivator. Roar! The mysterious Dragon King, the Flame Carp King, the Stone Turtle King and the Ice Python King all turned into their true forms. Their terrifying power suppressed the sky. The mysterious Dragon King and the other 4's true forms were covered by countless runes, causing their opponents to suffer. Many martial king realm cultivators of the 3 empires were already severely injured. The Solitary Sword King, the Golden Condor King and Chan Yuxiu all attacked with their full strength. Terrifying ripples spread out and surrounded the martial king realm cultivators of the 3 empires. Boom! The wrinkles on the North Vanquishing Prince's face were like small paths in a field. A bone-chilling aura spread out as if it was going to freeze the entire space. Under the spread of the chilling aura, even the black bear-like giant bear king was affected and frozen by the chilling aura. Chilling ice storm fist. The North vanquishing prince blasted out a punch with a terrifying chilling aura. Seeing the North vanquishing prince's punch coming, the giant bear king's eyes flickered. A vast and vigorous aura surged out as a fist seal pressed down on the North vanquishing prince at almost the same time. Boom! As the two fist seals collided, the chilling aura and vigorous aura were released at the same time. Dazzling runes released ripples that caused the entire sky to tremble. Stomp, stomp, then both of them were pushed back a few steps at the same time. They were evenly matched and neither of them had the upper hand. The giant bear king's fist was covered in frost. His profound chi surged and removed the frost. He looked at the North vanquishing prince and said, "I didn't expect you to recover from the chilling poison in your body. Not only have you recovered, but your strength has also increased." The North vanquishing prince said in a deep voice. He looked around and said to the giant bear king, "It seems like you won't get what you want today." "Humph, no matter what, the result can't be changed today." The giant bear king sneered. But at this moment he looked around with an embarrassed expression and slightly frowned. Many experts from the other three empires were killed. With the help of the Beast King Realm and Martial King Realm experts, the Stone Dragon Empire managed to turn the tables and turn the tide of the battle. Grandpasia! The golden rune wings flapped and Du Xiaofu appeared in front of the North vanquishing prince. "You've come back at the right time." The North vanquishing prince nodded. He looked at Du Xiaofu with a kind and excited look. The young man in front of him had returned with so many experts and changed the whole situation. "Grandpa Xie, leave this person to me." Du Xiaofu fixed his eyes on the giant bear king. He could tell that the giant bear king was the leader of the three empires' allied forces. Du Xiaofu planned to deal with the person in front of him first. This is the giant bear king of the Tianhu Empire, the #1 king of the Tianhu Empire. His cultivation is close to the peak of the Martial King Realm. The North vanquishing prince looked at Du Xiaofu and said. He seemed to be reminding Du Xiaofu and worrying about Du Xiaofu. "Don't worry, Grandpa Xie. I think I can kill this person." Du Xiaofu pursed his lips and smiled. The killing intent in his eyes was undisguised. He wanted to kill the giant bear king. "Well, I'll go help the South vanquishing prince. I'll leave this person to you." The North vanquishing prince said no more. He knew Du Xiaofu's character. If he wasn't confident, he would never do it. The North vanquishing prince was shocked. The young man in front of him had grown to such a terrifying level. Could he really kill a Martial King Realm expert at the peak of the Martial King Realm? "Boy, are you Du Xiaofu? You're boasting shamelessly. You'll pay the price for this." The giant bear king had already noticed Du Xiaofu and had heard of Du Xiaofu's name. He looked at Du Xiaofu and shouted. The vigorous aura around him fluctuated. The giant bear king's fist, which was bigger than a clay pot, was wrapped in runes and punched directly at Du Xiaofu. Boom! The punch seemed to explode the space. The terrifying aura made people tremble in fear. Du Xiaofu's dominating shadow swept out. He performed the furious sword-cutting sun from the bright saint swordplay and a terrifying sword radiance burst out. What a powerful sword! Suddenly, the giant bear king's face changed. He withdrew his fist and did not dare to take it head-on. A primitive Taoist weapon appeared in his palm. Boom! The giant bear king attacked with all his might. The runes in the sky surged, and he barely resisted the dominating shadow's sword power. However, cracks appeared on the primitive Taoist weapon. What a powerful sword! It's at least a high-grade Taoist weapon. The giant bear king was shocked. His opponent's strange sword was too powerful and terrifying. Its strength was also incredible. Continue! The giant bear king was not a weakling. He avoided the important part and focused on the trivial. The primitive Taoist weapon in his hands spun and turned into shadows of the club that surrounded Du Xiaofu. Roar of the sacred sword. Du Xiaofu drew his sword, and the tyrannical shadow was filled with boundless sword qi. It was domineering and sharp, and the sword light shot up into the sky and tangled with the staff shadow. It caused the sky to boil, and then it dissipated in midair. Boy die! Almost at the same time, the giant bear king shouted. The runes on his black bear-like body burst out and turned into a terrifying giant yellow bear that was dozens of feet long. Boom! The giant black bear was the giant bear king's vain spirit. The runes all over its body glowed with dazzling light, and it seemed to be accompanied by flashes of lightning. It caused the surrounding world to rumble as it charged at Du Xiaofu. The giant bear king activated his vain spirit and wanted to take the opportunity to kill Du Xiaofu. The spiked Club Dao treasure from before was just a bait for the giant bear king. His true goal was to rely on the special effects of his bloodline soul, the thunderstorm astral bear, to completely kill Du Xiaofu. Rock descends to the 9 heavens. Du Xiaofu was not afraid. The rune wings on his back opened and closed. Golden light bloomed and filled the sky. It was as if a real golden-winged rock had descended. He carried the domineering will of the golden-winged rock race. He flapped his wings and swept towards the giant bear king. Under the domineering aura, the giant bear king immediately felt his vain spirit being suppressed. It was as if he had met a supreme expert and wanted to crawl. Rumble! The two of them suppressed each other. From the point of collision, a series of runes shot out and shone brightly. The energy swept across the sky. Boy, you are only at the Martial King realm. I am at the peak of the Martial King realm. You can't fight against me. The giant bear king shouted. The runes on the thunderstorm big bear vein spirit burst out. The runes surged in the sky and caused the space to tremble violently. Is that so? Du Xiaofu sneered. Suddenly, a terrifying aura erupted from his body again, like a volcano that had been suppressed. A huge chapter, almost 2 chapters. Today's update will be completed. Brothers, go to bed early after reading it. I will continue to beg for fresh flowers and recommendations. Thank you. Chapter 744. In an instant, golden light flowed all over Du Xiaofu's body. It seemed to be filled with mysteries as it led to an intense energy fluctuation that spread out in the area. Whoosh! The energy in the surroundings seemed to be attracted by something at this moment. It began to gather crazily towards Du Xiaofu. It was extremely intense and terrifying. The energy fluctuation in the area did not stop. An extremely domineering aura started to seep out from Du Xiaofu's body. It was endless and shot golden light into the sky. Boom! At that moment, the golden light around Du Xiaofu's body was like a sun that was about to rise. The wind and clouds in the sky were dyed golden. The light was so bright that it looked like a sea of golden clouds. Countless people on the battlefield seemed to have sensed something and looked up. There was a golden light that shot into the sky. As the domineering aura descended, it caused the vain spirits inside and outside the body to show signs of trembling. The golden light burst out and lit up the area. The golden light was boundless and the golden light was dazzling. At the same time, the golden rune wings on Du Xiaofu's back gradually disappeared and were replaced by another pair of golden wings. This pair of golden wings was no longer an illusory pair of rune wings. Instead, it was so real. The golden wings spread out from Du Xiaofu's back and were covered by layers of golden feathers. In an instant, the golden wings shone boundless golden light. It was like a golden torrent that hung in the sky. It carried an extremely domineering aura. That is, at that moment, the entire battlefield was trembling. Countless people were terrified. Far away in the sky, there were also several hidden auras that silently spied over as if they had been electrocuted. Roar! The battlefield was filled with roars. Countless demonic beasts and demonic beast vein spirits were terrified. The aura that spread out from the golden wings was the aura of a king that the demonic beasts and demonic beast vein spirits could not resist. They could only crawl. Otherwise, they would not be able to resist. Oh no! At that moment, the giant bear king seemed to have sensed something. The thunderstorm Big Dipper Bear's huge eyes were filled with shock and fear. Peak of the complete Martial King realm. I will still kill you. Du Xiaofu spat out these indifferent and domineering words. Mysterious talisman runes flickered within the golden torrent that hung between the heavens and the earth, emitting a blazing radiance. after which an enormous golden-winged rock flapped its wings and appeared. Whoosh! The golden-winged rock spread out its ferocious aura, which made everyone's heart tremble. What a powerful aura! The entire battlefield was in shock. Everyone was trembling, and the blood in their bodies seemed to be boiling. The pressure that spread out from the enormous golden-winged rock made all those who were not strong enough want to crawl on the ground. Roar! The cries of the golden-winged rock pierced through the clouds. The entire battlefield and the enormous Enlightenment City were trembling. The entire space was trembling. The is Rorak arts is he rock, or is rocks? Is too? The martial emperor realm cultivators were startled. The aura of the illusionary figure of the golden-winged pung bird was too imperious. The huge thunderstorm Big Dipper Bear Meridian spirit trembled and its pupils shrank in fear. The thunderstorm Big Dipper Bear Meridian spirit was naturally suppressed by the rock's aura and was unable to resist. To the giant bear king, Sumo was only a martial king realm cultivator. However, Sumo's strength was not inferior to his. Especially the rock's golden wings. They were the real rock's golden wings. The giant bear king could not resist them at all. How would the giant bear king know that the golden wings on Du Xiaofu's back were the real rock's golden wings? Rock descends to the ninth heaven. Suppress. Du Xiaofu activated the rock descends to the ninth heaven with the real rock's golden wings. At this moment, the rock's wings were wide open and Du Xiaofu felt that he was the real rock. He had merged with his blood and soul and soared into the sky. The rock's golden wings swept over the thunderstorm Big Dipper Bear Meridian spirit. In the sky, the huge golden-winged rock that was projected out wanted to soar into the sky, look down on the world, and suppress all living beings. Rumble. At this moment, the sky was filled with golden light. The vast plains were shaking and the ground in Enlightenment City was cracking. The rock's golden rock art was so powerful that it shook the heavens and the earth. Under the gazes of countless people, the thunderstorm Big Dipper Bear Meridian spirit on the giant bear king's body was destroyed and turned into pieces. Above the torrent of golden light, the gigantic golden-winged rock's illusory figure gradually disappeared. The giant bear king's body was revealed. He opened his mouth and spat out mouthfuls of blood. His face was pale and his eyes were filled with fear. He immediately retreated and fled. Kill! A figure wrapped in golden light appeared silently behind the fleeing Ursa king. The figure wrapped in golden light had a pair of golden runic wings spread out behind his back. He was like a rock spreading its wings. His body was releasing a boundless and domineering aura, as if he was going to soar into the sky. There was a supreme aura spreading out and suppressing the heavens and the earth. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's eyes shot out golden light. It was like two suns shining in the sky and overlooking the world. Rock's chaos-crushing claw. A sharp claw was stretched out. It was like a real rock's claw that wanted to tear through the sky. Golden runic patterns flickered and a powerful and domineering aura spread out from the sharp claw. As the claw swept out, the terrifying aura caused the space to rumble. Domineering energy fluctuations rose and fell like an ocean. It was like a golden rainbow across the sky. Amidst the surging runes, it directly landed on the giant bear king and trapped him. The terrifying aura suppressed him. At this moment, the giant bear king was unable to escape. He was unable to resist. Stop! Stop right there! A thunderous shout resounded from the nine heavens. A thunderous roar resounded as a stream of light swept over from the distance. It was like a thunderbolt as it swept towards Du Xiaofu. It was accompanied by a terrifying aura. You're finally willing to come out. Unfortunately, you're still unable to stop it with your strength. Get the hell back! At the same time, Yuanli's voice resounded. Subsequently, everyone saw a stream of light soar into the sky and directly collide with the figure that was sweeping over from the distance. Their speed was too fast, and the two figures collided in an instant. Then, a muffled thunder-like sound rang out. Bang! The muffled noises did not stop, causing the entire Enlightenment City to rumble incessantly. How terrifying! The terrifying aura spread out, causing all the martial kings present to tremble. martial royal realm. As they sensed the frightening aura that spread, the hearts of all the experts on the battlefield emitted numerous shocked mutters. At the same time, the giant bear king's body was swept up by the sharp claw that was like the golden wings of a rock. The terrifying domineering aura spread out, causing the entire area to tremble. Chi-la-la! Under the claw, the giant bear king's pupils shrunk and he trembled. Subsequently, he was torn into pieces and blood mist. The giant bear king, who was at the complete martial king realm and was recognized as the #1 king in the Tianhu Empire, had been killed in the sky. Throughout the battlefield, both inside and outside of Enlightenment City, countless pairs of eyes stared at the golden-winged figure in the sky. They trembled and prostrated themselves. The golden wings gradually retracted and the golden light disappeared. The terrifying domineering aura rippled and gradually dissipated under countless pairs of trembling eyes. As the golden light dissipated, Du Xiaofu's figure was revealed. His face was pale and a mouthful of golden blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Du Xiaofu had used all his strength to kill the giant bear king, who was at the peak of the complete martial king realm. Although he had used the real golden wings of a rock, Du Xiaofu's huge celestial qi was almost not enough to support it. However, even though Du Xiaofu had managed to kill the giant bear king as he wished, he was still greatly affected. The giant bear king has been killed. North Vanquishing Prince, Ouyang Ling, South Vanquishing Prince, East Vanquishing Prince, Eagle King and Gong Dao were all waiting. At this moment, they were all dumbfounded and gasping. The purple-robed youth was able to kill the giant bear king, who was at the peak of the complete martial king realm. At this moment, the purple-robed youth's strength had reached a terrifying level. After being stunned for a moment, the Stone Dragon Empire's troops on the battlefield burst into a thunderous uproar. The invincible king of divine courage has strengthened our country's prestige. The invincible king of divine courage has strengthened our country's prestige. President, the invincible king of divine courage has strengthened our world society. Roar! Everyone stared at the purple-robed young man in the air with fervent gazes. Their fervent gazes had reached a fanatical level. After the giant bear king was killed, the Stone Dragon Empire's army, world society, Heavenly Beast Hall and other forces were in an uproar for a long time. The waves of cheers resounded through the clouds and shook the 9 heavens. The Divine Seal King must be the incarnation of a heavenly god. In Enlightenment City, countless old people were praying and kneeling. In Enlightenment City, hundreds of millions of people imprinted that domineering figure in the depths of their souls. Chapter 745. Under everyone's gaze, the giant bear king, the #1 king of the Tianhu Empire, was killed by the courage god king, shocking the entire battlefield. Everyone's hearts trembled. The courage god king did not disappoint. He was as domineering and ferocious as ever. Grandpa is right. He is not an ordinary person. Right now, he has already risen to the top. On the battlefield, Xie Fei's beautiful eyes landed on the purple-robed young man who was cheering. Deep within her beautiful eyes, there were ripples of shock. That is the third brother of the Du family. Du Xiaoman and Du Yunlong's eyes trembled as they fought. So strong. Mysterious Dragon King, Solitary Sword King, Golden Condor King, Flame Carp King, Stone Turtle King, Chan Yuxiu, Zhuang Pingyang and the others all looked at the purple-robed young man. At that moment, their hearts began to fluctuate. An indescribable thought emerged in their hearts. It was as if following the purple-robed young man was a blessing rather than a curse. Dang 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 dang. At the same time in the sky, a figure was pushed back. It was a tall old man who looked to be in his 90s. His face was skinny and full of wrinkles, but his eyes were bright and gloomy. As the old man was pushed back, he spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale and his eyes were filled with shock. In mid-air, Yuanli did not move. He stood with one hand behind his back. It seemed like he only used one hand to attack. Junior brother, are you okay? Amidst the deafening cheers, Yuanli had already reached Du Xiaofu's side. When he felt that Du Xiaofu was fine, he was relieved. Third senior brother, I'm fine. Du Xiaofu shook his head and stuffed a Xianyuan elixir into his mouth. Du Xiaofu immediately looked at the old man who was pushed back by Yuanli. The aura radiating from the old man caused Du Xiaofu's expression to turn solemn. A profound-level martial emperor. He's not weak at all. Yuanli followed Du Xiaofu's gaze and looked at the old man who had just been pushed back by him. However, he didn't take it to heart. I didn't expect the Stone Dragon Empire to have a martial emperor. The old man's figure retreated, his gloomy eyes looking at Yuanli and Du Xiaofu with an ugly expression. Whoosh! As the old man finished speaking, two figures that looked like flowing lights shot over from the distant sky. They were like lightning and instantly appeared beside the old man. The light receded, revealing two figures. Both of them looked to be in their 70s or 80s, and the aura on their bodies was almost the same as the first old man. Two more martial emperors. With the appearance of the two old men, Du Xiaofu frowned slightly, and his eyes narrowed again. Du Xiaofu sensed a special aura from the three old men. That aura was extremely strange and mysterious. It was not something that an ordinary cultivator could possess. Greetings, old emperor. Just as Du Xiaofu was concentrating, within the battle circle, the Tianhu Empire, the Jinshan Empire, and the Zhenghong Empire were dueling. Respectful greetings could be heard. Could it be that the old emperors of the three empires are still alive? Du Xiaofu's eyebrows twitched. The aura that spread out from the three old men should be a kind of imperial palace dragon chi without a doubt. On the other hand, Yuanli and the other two old men beside Du Xiaofu didn't look surprised, nor did they look worried. As the few old men stepped into the air, an invisible aura spread out. The cheers that were boiling because of Du Xiaofu seemed to have sensed something, and at this moment, for no reason, they slowly quieted down. The North Vanquishing Prince, the South Vanquishing Prince, the East Vanquishing Prince, the Mysterious Dragon King, the Silver-Winged Demonic Condor, and the others' eyes flickered when they sensed the appearance of the old men. The gazes of the two old men who had just arrived were secretly changing as they looked at Yuanli and Du Xiaofu. Then, one of the old men in yellow looked at the sky and said in a soft voice, "Cheng Fanshi, it's time for you to come out." The old emperor is also here? Hearing the old man's words, the North Vanquishing King, the South Vanquishing King, and the East Vanquishing King of the Stone Dragon Empire were secretly moved. Gong Jianye Yuwenqing Ji Guangjia, you're actually still alive? You still want to join hands to find this old man? A faint voice came from the direction of Enlightenment City. In the distant sky, a figure slowly came over. That figure was wrapped in a faint golden light, and an invisible pressure descended upon him. The figure appeared in the sky and directly appeared in front of Du Xiaofu. Within the faint golden light, a dense aura spread out. That aura was much denser and more solid than the three old men's. Du Xiaofu felt a majestic aura crushing down on him as if a dragon had descended. It was an old man in his 80s. His long black hair was draped over his shoulders and there were a few strands of golden hair that were extremely eye-catching. His eyes were deep and rippled like the vast sea. Greetings, old emperor. Seeing the old man appear, the North Vanquishing King, the South Vanquishing King, and the East Vanquishing King immediately saluted. The old emperor of the Stone Dragon Empire. Du Xiaofu's gaze also fell on the old man beside him. He was surprised that the old emperor of the Stone Dragon Empire was still alive. Good job, little guy. The old emperor waved his hand and looked at Du Xiaofu with a faint smile. His rippling eyes revealed a look of admiration. Cheng Fanshi, let's settle everything today between us. One of the two old men, a rather short old man, looked at Cheng Fanshi of the Stone Dragon Empire and said, Ji Guangjia, you don't seem to have much of a chance of winning? Cheng Fanshi turned around and looked at the old man who spoke. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back and his eyes blazed like torches. We'll know after we try. Do you think we wouldn't come if we weren't confident? The old man who was the first to be forced back by Yuanli shouted. Immediately, a powerful aura gushed out from his body. The light in his eyes was like that of a ferocious beast awakening. As the runes flashed, it was as if ferocious beasts were condensing. The aura was extremely terrifying. Boom! Then a war blade appeared in the old man's hand. The runes on the war blade flickered. Its chi was so powerful that it almost overflowed the void. A top high-grade Dao weapon. Du Xiaofu was shocked. The power of the terrifying warblade was slightly higher than his Fuyao heaven-shaking fan. It was definitely not inferior to the tyrannical shadow. The ancient aura that pervaded the warblade was more ancient than his tyrannical shadow. It had been accumulated for thousands of years. It was a peak high-grade Dao weapon, but it was almost beyond the level of a Dao weapon. Its aura was so terrifying that it made people shudder with fear. At this moment, sensing the warblade in the old man's hand, Cheng Fansher's old face suddenly turned solemn. Cheng Fansher, do you think we still have a chance of winning? The old man stared at Cheng Fanshi. His voice was calm, but at that moment, everyone could tell that with the saber in his hand, the old man was confident and calm. He was starting to become stronger. Roar! Suddenly, just as the old man's voice fell, in the distant sky where the wind and clouds were surging, an astonishing lion roar was suddenly heard. Roar! The sound waves surged as the lion's roar reverberated throughout the world. Everyone looked to the side as several rays of light appeared in the distant sky. Faintly, there was an astonishing aura that caused huge waves in the sky. Roar! The rays of light were getting closer and closer as fierce creatures swept across the sky. They were as fast as lightning, and the lion's roar was becoming more and more astonishing. In a short moment, the dazzling rays of light had already appeared in the sky. Many people's faces were suddenly filled with shock. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, four terrifying behemoths that were over 100 feet tall stepped through the air and approached them. From afar, those behemoths looked like 4 mountains in the sky. As they got closer and closer, everyone could see them clearly. Only then did they realize that they were 4 gigantic golden lions. The lions had 3 heads, the middle head was especially huge. Its 6 eyes were like lanterns and covered in golden scales. It looked as if it was cast from metal, and the runes on it were shining brightly. The 4 three-headed lions stepped into the sky, causing the surrounding air to surge like waves. Ripples spread out, causing the profound energy in people's bodies to stagnate. Oh my God! At this moment, what was even more shocking was that the 4 lions were neatly divided into 2 groups. They stood side by side and looked very tame. In the middle of the 4 three-headed golden lions was actually pulling a phoenix carriage. On the phoenix carriage, the runes fluctuated and the aura spread out as if it was alive. It was extremely terrifying. 3-headed golden lions aren't ranked low on the heavenly beast list. They're all at the peak of the complete beast king realm. Du Xiaofu looked at the 4 terrifying golden lions and his gaze trembled. 3-headed golden lions were definitely not ranked below the scarlet cloud dragon on the heavenly beast list. Moreover, there were 4 of them at the peak of the complete beast king realm. That was even more rare. To be able to take out 4 3-headed golden lions at the peak of the complete beast king realm to pull the carriage, the power behind that person was definitely extraordinary. The golden lion phoenix carriage is from the Great Wheel sect. Chapter 746. Yuanli looked at the phoenix chariot pulled by the 3-headed golden lions and his expression changed. He then sent a message to Du Xiaofu and said, "Junior brother, that is the golden lion phoenix chariot. They should be from the Great Luan sect. Be careful." Great Luan sect. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu's eyes trembled inwardly. 1 valley, 2 sects, 3 sects, 3 sects, 3 sects, 3 sects, 3 sects, 3 sects. These 9 great sects were the Spirit Sky Valley, the Immeasurable Sect, the Great Luan Sect, the Ancient Heaven Sect, the Sky Serpent Sect, the Profound Underworld Sect, the Celestial Capital Sect, the Huijian Sect, and the Profound Talisman Sect. These 9 great sects were famous throughout the central continent, and their experts were as numerous as the clouds. Roar! The 4 three-headed golden lions roared, and a terrifying aura swept across the sky. The Old Lord, Cheng Fansher, Gong Jianye, Yuanqing Jiguang, and Jiada all looked at the Great Luan sect seriously. Swoosh, swoosh. The golden lion phoenix chariot appeared in the sky, and 3 elders who looked to be in their 50s and a big man who looked to be in his 40s flew out. The appearance of these 4 people caused the entire sky to tremble for no reason. Inadvertently, a faintly discernible invisible pressure spread out, causing the Martial King Realm and Martial King Realm cultivators to tremble in fear. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's eyes narrowed as he looked at the 4 people. As he looked at the 4 of them, a chaotic pressure involuntarily gushed out from Du Xiaofu's heart. The 4 of them seemed to be releasing endless immortal pressure from their bodies. Great Circle Martial King Realm. 4 Great Circle Martial Kings and a Golden Lion Phoenix Chariot. It seems like the person in the Phoenix Chariot is the legendary person in the Great Luen sect. Yu Wanli muttered softly as if he was talking to Du Xiaofu, but also as if he was muttering to himself. Swoosh! As the 4 of them flew out, a beautiful figure flew out of the Phoenix Chariot and drew a beautiful arc in the sky. Then, the beautiful figure appeared in the sky and shouted, "Cheng Xingnan from the Stone Dragon Empire is here. Who dares to invade our borders?" The voice was clear and loud. A beautiful figure floated in the air. A lady wearing an orange-red tight dress appeared. She had a pair of long and slender legs and a slim waist that could not be hugged, causing her originally tall figure to appear even more slender and enchanting. Her appearance was extremely moving. However, at this moment, there was a cold glint shooting out from her eyes. It's her, looking at the familiar figure, Du Xiaofu's Majesty's Lun Sect Princess. He did not expect the first princess to be in the Phoenix Chariot. The first princess is back. At this moment, many experts from the Stone Dragon Empire were moved. The old emperor, Cheng Fanshi, was also surprised by Cheng Xingnan's appearance in the Phoenix Chariot. Gong Jianye, Yu Wenqing, and Ji Guangjia's faces turned ugly when they saw that the first princess of the Stone Dragon Empire, Cheng Xingnan, had arrived in the Phoenix Chariot. "Welcome, Holy Sun." The 3 old men and a middle-aged man appeared and stood respectfully in front of the Phoenix Chariot. His voice was calm, but it reverberated in all directions and resounded in the sky. His voice was accompanied by a strange force that caused the minds of those who heard it to tremble and their ears to tremble. A young man in a red robe walked out of the Phoenix Chariot. He was a young man in his early 20s and he had his head slightly lowered. It was difficult to control a young man in a red robe. However, the red robe on the young man's body was embroidered with many exquisite patterns. It was as if it was a perfect fit with the young man's body. The young man seemed to be born with the ability to capture everyone's attention. Everyone's attention was on him. The young man in the red robe raised his head and his eyes were dazzling. No one dared to look at him directly. The young man had light golden hair and stood in the air. His entire body seemed to be shrouded in light and was naturally dazzling. "Everyone from the Stone Dragon Empire, please step back a little." The young man's voice was loud enough to cover the dull sounds below. It was loud enough to make the entire battlefield hear it clearly. This voice made people who heard it feel as if they could feel a wave of warmth entering their hearts and their minds rippling. Bang, bang, bang. The army in the middle of a fierce battle seemed to be affected by the young man's voice. They felt like they couldn't control themselves and stopped fighting. Swoosh, swoosh. The experts from the Stone Dragon Empire retreated one by one and floated in the air. They looked at the young man in the red robe with awe in their eyes. Even the mysterious Dragon King, the Solitary Sword King, and the silver-winged demonic condor stopped fighting with their opponents and retreated to Du Xiaofu's side. They were dazed for a moment before regaining their senses. At this moment, many experts from the Tianhu Empire, Jinshan Empire, and Jinghong Empire looked at Gong Jianye, Ji Guang, Jiada, and Yu Wenqing in confusion. They looked at each other angrily. "Attack!" The young man in the red robe said softly and waved his hand. "Yes, Holy Sun." The 3 old men and the middle-aged man nodded respectfully. As soon as he finished speaking, the 4 of them stepped into the air. Light blossomed from their bodies and runes swept across the sky. They directly pounced on Gong Jianye and the others. "Kill!" The 4 terrifying experts instantly appeared beside Gong Jianye and the others. Their bodies shone with boundless light as their terrifying attacks swept out in a manner that could topple mountains and overturn seas. Shit! The pitiful Gong Jianye and the other two didn't even have time to react before they were annihilated. Rumble! Terrifying rune energy filled the 9 heavens. The 4 terrifying experts who came with the young man in the red robe were covered in endless divine light. They were so bright that lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky. The terrifying energy shook the heavens and the earth. Lightning flashed across the sky. It was extremely terrifying and shocking. In the terrifying energy attack, Gong Jianye and the others were instantly wrapped in dazzling runes. Not long after, miserable shrieks rang out one by one. Ear-piercing shrieks rang out. It was enough to show that Gong Jianye and the others didn't even have a chance to fight back. They were definitely killed. Gong Jianye didn't even know how he died. Martial emperors were killed in such a simple and quick manner in the sky. Kill, the young man in the red robe said softly again. He waved his hand slightly and his voice was so calm that it didn't fluctuate at all. Roar! As the young man in the red robe spoke, the 4 mountain-like 3-headed golden lions roared and charged towards the Martial King Realm and Martial Lord Realm cultivators of the 3 empires. The Martial King Realm and Martial Lord Realm cultivators of the Tianhu Empire and the other 2 empires, as well as 6-star and 5-star spiritual talisman masters, were all trembling because of the old emperor's death. Before they could react, they had already suffered a devastating attack. Roar! A 3-headed golden lion opened its bloody mouth and directly swallowed 5 or 6 Martial Lord Realm cultivators. Kacha! A Martial King Realm cultivator was directly torn into pieces by a 3-headed golden lion. Kill! The 4 martial emperors also continued to attack. Their attacks swept across the sky and the Martial King Realm cultivators screamed miserably. One by one, the Martial King Realm and Martial Lord Realm cultivators of the 3 empires were directly killed. There was simply no way for them to resist. Terrifying, this is too terrifying. Everyone from the Stone Dragon Empire was dumbfounded and exclaimed. That kind of strength was so terrifying that it was beyond everyone's imagination. That was a group of terrifying powerhouses. They could destroy the top powerhouses of the 3 empires with just a wave of their hand. Run quickly! The Martial King Realm cultivators of the 3 empires shouted and quickly ran for their lives. However, at this moment, under the siege of the 4 3-headed golden lions and the 4 Martial Royal Realm experts, no one could escape. A large number of the army of the 3 empires were also eaten by the 4 3-headed golden lions. The entire vast square was filled with broken limbs and broken bones. Corpses were everywhere and blood flowed like a river. All the powerful cultivators of the 3 empires were almost completely annihilated. Every single one of them was killed. All of this happened in a short period of time, and all of this was done by the 4 people and the 4 beasts. How terrifying and shocking was that? The strength of those people and the terrifying demonic beasts was actually so terrifying. Everyone looked at all of this and was stunned. They were unable to recover from their shock and could not believe it. Looking at all of this, a new world opened up in the hearts of countless people. Only then did they realize that there were actually such experts in this world. Those who offend my empire must be killed. Cheng Xingnan looked at the sky in front of her and her clear voice echoed between heaven and earth. Kill! The army of the Stone Dragon Empire came back to their senses and immediately began to counterattack. The army of the Stone Dragon Empire was boiling with blood and sharp killing intent soared into the sky. Run quickly! At this moment, almost all of the experts of the 3 empires' army were killed. Under that kind of intimidation, their bodies trembled and their souls trembled. They could not resist at all and could only flee in all directions. Rumble! Low muffled sounds were endless and miserable cries were heard. What awaited the army of the 3 empires was a massacre. Corpses were everywhere and blood flowed like a river. The killing shook the sky. The 4 3-headed golden lions and the 4 terrifying experts did not interfere. They flew to the back of the golden-haired young man in the red robe. 2 nights in a row. Asking for flowers and recommendations. Thank you, brothers and sisters. Chapter 747. The golden-haired young man in the red robe appeared beside eldest princess Qing Xing'an. He said softly, "Junior sister Xing, it has been settled. You don't have to worry about it anymore." "Thank you for your help, Saint." The first princess Qing Xing'an bowed slightly. Her elegant temperament was somewhat cold, but at this moment, her eyes were filled with gratitude. "I said that you don't have to be so polite. Just call me Qi Huang. Calling me Saint makes us seem distant." The young man in the red robe smiled. He had a face that looked like it was carved out of a sculpture. The curve of his lips was perfect and he seemed to be smiling all the time. This kind of smile seemed to be able to push away the darkness from the clouds. It was gentle and at ease. "Then I'll just follow your orders, senior brother Qi Huang." Qing Xing'an smiled. As the experts from the three empires were all killed, the worry in her heart disappeared. The worry on her face slowly dissipated. "Now you don't treat me as an outsider. You seem much friendlier." The golden-haired young man in the red robe looked at Qing Xing'an. His smile made ripples appear in his eyes. However, under his noble and extraordinary aura, it was difficult for others to see through him. "Xing'an, why are you back?" The old Lord Cheng Fancher came to Qing Xing'an's side. At this moment, his gaze landed on the golden-haired young man in the red robe. "Grandfather, I was in seclusion in the divine court. I only received news from father when I came out of seclusion. That's why I rushed back. Fortunately, I made it in time." Qing Xing'an bowed. Then, she happily introduced the golden-haired young man in the red robe to her grandfather Cheng Fancher. She said, "Grandfather, let me introduce you. This is the saint of the Great Lun sect. This time, it's all thanks to senior brother Qi Huang's help." Great Lun sect. Hearing those three words, Cheng Fancher's eyes trembled. The Great Lun sect. Even the Stone Dragon Empire, which was far away, knew what it represented. "Greetings, holy son." Cheng Fanchi bowed respectfully. He was the emperor of the Stone Dragon Empire, a strong cultivator of the Huang Qi layer, but he knew that an empire was nothing in front of the Great Lun sect. The three martial dominators were killed in the blink of an eye. "Since you're junior sister Xingnan's grandfather, there's no need to be courteous. Just call me Qi Huang." The red-robed golden-haired man smiled. With a shake of his hand, a battle blade appeared in his hand. It was the peak high-grade Dao artifact that Gong Jianya had used previously. After Gong Jianya was killed, the Dao artifact naturally fell into the hands of the martial lord elders. Then, it naturally fell into the hands of the red-robed blonde man. "I came here in a hurry and didn't know that I would meet junior sister Xingnan's grandfather. Why don't I present a gift to Buddha with borrowed flowers? Grandfather, please accept it." The red-robed young man handed the saber in his hand to Cheng Fancher with a warm smile on his face. Cheng Fancher was stunned and squinted his eyes. How could he not know the value of the saber? The saber was definitely a precious treasure. Its value was immeasurable. Calling it a national treasure was an understatement. After a few breaths, the Emperor Cheng Fancher held the saber in his hand. His eyes trembled slightly. It was definitely a precious treasure. A martial emperor would not be able to resist its temptation. "Xingnan." A faint voice, a calm tone. His eyes were filled with surprise and joy. There was also a hint of longing. Du Xiaofu went to the first princess Qing Xingnan's side. The woman in front of him was becoming more and more attractive. "Xiaofu, why are you back?" The first princess Qing Xingnan had already seen Du Xiaofu. However, when she looked at the young man in front of her, she was still surprised. After that, a smile appeared on her beautiful face, like a beautiful rose blooming on her cheeks. Her beautiful figure walked in front of Du Xiaofu, and a delicate fragrance permeated the air. Her red lips parted slightly and her eyes rippled. "I've heard some news about you. I originally thought that you wouldn't be here at this time, but I didn't expect that you would return." "I have also just arrived," Du Xiaofu said softly as he looked at the woman in front of him. "Junior sister Xingnan, this is?" The red-robed young man with golden hair stepped forward and looked at Du Xiaofu with a smile. He was very approachable and made people feel as if they were bathed in a spring breeze. Let me introduce him to you. Cheng Xingnan smiled and introduced the red-robed young man to Du Xiaofu. She said, "This is the holy son of the great Luin sect, senior brother Dongli Qihuang." Cheng Xingnan then introduced Du Xiaofu to Dongli Qihuang. The ripples in her eyes had already disappeared. She smiled and said, "This is the youngest king of our Stone Dragon Empire. He once defeated the human king of the Sky Serpent sect, the genius Lu Kuan, and the valiant king Du Xiaofu." Dongli Qihuang looked at Du Xiaofu and smiled. He said, "The Stone Dragon Empire is indeed blessed with outstanding people." Du Xiaofu nodded at Dongli Qihuang. The holy son of the great Luin sect sounded very impressive. It was not difficult to see that this person's position in the great Luin sect was not low. "Impudent! Why don't you greet the holy son?" Suddenly, a loud shout rang out. It was the middle-aged man among the 4 perfection martial emperors behind Dongli Qihuang. He shouted at Du Xiaofu. His voice rolled out, and his aura caused the surrounding space to tremble violently. Du Xiaofu raised his head and looked at the middle-aged man who had just spoken. His face darkened slightly. As soon as the middle-aged man finished speaking, many people in the surroundings looked over with complicated gazes. The Great Luin sect is so impressive. It's fine if you show off in front of others, but in front of us, it's not the Great Luin sect's turn to show off. An indifferent voice was heard. Yuanli's figure appeared beside Du Xiaofu. He looked at the middle-aged man who had just spoken. Yuanli's eyes shone brightly and he said in a sharp voice, "The reincarnated holy son of the Great Luin sect has a high position. However, that's only in the Great Luin sect. I'm afraid that even Dongli Changgu of the Great Luin sect would not be able to get my junior to greet you." Yuanli's voice was heard and it was not inferior to the middle-aged man from the Great Luin sect. "How dare you!" The Great Luin sect's middle-aged man who was at the Great Luin sect's Great Luin sect was shocked. He shouted and his aura surged. Boom! At the same time, the other 3 martial royal realm experts sensed that Yuanli's aura was not ordinary and their auras surged. Roar! At the same time, the 4 3-headed golden lions roared and 4 terrifying auras swept out. They looked at Yuanli and Du Xiaofu fiercely. Swoosh swoosh! In a flash, more than 20 figures appeared behind Du Xiaofu. They were the Solitary Sword King, Golden Condor King, Chan Yuxiu and the rest. Their auras surged out. Humph! A man who looked to be in his 30s snorted. He was the mysterious Dragon King and his aura swept out towards the 4 3-headed golden lions. Humph! A handsome man in a white shirt snorted. He was the silver-winged demon condor from the Chaos Demon Cliff. His handsome face had a noble demonic aura and his aura was overbearing. His aura was not inferior to the 3-headed golden lion's aura. Swoosh swoosh! Then, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, Hua Fankong, Chao Yu and the rest rushed over and stood behind Du Xiaofu. The 2 sides were at daggers drawn and the surrounding people's gazes changed. They were afraid that the 2 sides would break out into a huge battle. How can you be so rude to junior sister Xingnan's men? Back off! Dongli Qihuang waved his hand at the 4 people and 4 beasts behind him. He shook his red robe and glanced at the mysterious Dragon King, Silver-Winged Demon Condor, Golden Condor King, Solitary Sword King and the rest behind Du Xiaofu. Then his gaze landed on Yuanli and Du Xiaofu. Dongli's Scarlet Phoenix's eyes flickered. She smiled and said to Yuanli gently, "May I know who you are?" "Humph, I am," Yuanli snorted. The Great Luin sect did not scare him. Yuanli was right. The reincarnated saint of the Great Luin sect had a high status in the sect. However, Yuanli also knew that this little junior brother of his had a high status in the Ancient Heaven sect. Putting his junior brother's strength and status aside, his status as the junior brother of the Ancient Heaven sect's sect master was enough for him to be on equal footing with the higher-ups of the Great Luin sect. Third senior brother. Yuanli was about to introduce himself, but Du Xiaofu smiled faintly and waved his hand to signal his 3rd senior brother not to say anything. Then, looking at Dongli Qihuang, Du Xiaofu smiled faintly and said, "This is my 3rd senior brother. He is a little straightforward. Please forgive him, Saint. Hearing this, the Eastern mythical Scarlet Phoenix secretly glanced at Du Xiaofu. She smiled and said, "Brave God King, you are too polite." Seeing that the tense atmosphere between Dongli Qihuang and Du Xiaofu had dissolved, Cheng Xingnan and the old Lord Cheng Fanshi secretly breathed a sigh of relief. On the battlefield below, the massacre lasted from dawn to dusk. On the vast plains, countless corpses were piled up into small hills. Blood flowed like a river, dyeing the rivers and lakes inside and outside Enlightenment City blood red. The murderous aura accumulated in the sky for a long time, and the smell of blood permeated the air. There were countless casualties in this battle. The number of corpses that covered the sky was uncountable. The old Lord Emperor, Cheng Xingnan, Dongli Qihuang, Du Xiaofu, Yuanli and the others had already left the battlefield after the situation stabilized. They arrived at the Enlightenment City, where the higher-ups of the Stone Dragon Empire's army discussed the situation. The vast courtyard was enough for many people to rest in peace. At dusk, the setting sun in Enlightenment City was as red as blood, accompanied by the smell of blood. Little junior brother, if we were to fight today, we would be at a disadvantage. They have more people than us. Why don't we inform Master to come over and ruthlessly trample on those bastards from the Great Luan sect? Yuanli said to Du Xiaofu as he walked through the courtyards, pavilions, and corridors. The setting sun was like blood. Today, Yuanli knew that if he really fought with the Great Will sect, he would be at a disadvantage. After all, there were 4 of them. Du Xiaofu looked at Yuanli and smiled bitterly. He said helplessly, "No need, third senior brother. The Great Luan sect has nothing to do with us. Let's mind our own business. We don't want the Manchu to get involved." You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.